some of you are not going to love to hear this.
No,
They say never do business with a woman. They say never do business with an Indian named Singh. They say MD, after the guy's initials, he's doctor, means money dumb. Because while you're
100%.
While you're in school, and to get into medical school, you have to be a good student. You have to get good grades, right? This is what traditional, I'm an old timer. Things might have changed a little bit, but I'm just telling you what we were taught, right? This is not me. I do business with women all the time. I have a tremendous amount of Indians I do business with.
Hey guys, welcome. Business at the Speed of Light. I'm Dr. Stefano Sinicropi. I'm very excited about this new series where we really host beasts of the game, and I don't mean that lightly. And we are starting off strong today. We have the one and only rockin' Ross Mandell. When you hear this man's story, it will blow you away. And if you don't like to hear, stuff that you don't like to hear, maybe this isn't the podcast for you, because we're going to go deep, we're going to go raw, and we're going to talk about how to succeed in the business world and how to shoot for greatness. And, we all have ups and downs, and, finding our way to where we want to be is what it's all about. So thanks, Ross, for joining us today on the program. I couldn't be more excited about having you here, and all I can say is it's going to be interesting.
Thank you for having me, and I don't think I could be more excited. I love you. I truly love Kelly. You're better half. But, considering we know each other a relatively short period of time, wow.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
It's crazy. I mean, your story, you started telling me your story, because I honestly didn't know your story, right? I knew the other guy's story, but I didn't know your story. So let's just start like this, because people are, just kind of going to want to know. So, right, this Wolf of Wall Street movie came out, right? And I'm sure you watched it.
Of course.
When you came out. We'll get into that a little bit. But when you watch something like that, do you just think to yourself, wait a minute, I've done all that in that movie, but even more? Because your story's probably crazier than that story, but yet there was a movie made about another guy. So
right. Well, he wrote a book, and he had been to prison, did 22 months. He basically ratted out on all these young kids that he recruited to work for him. And, when you're a young kid and you go to Wall Street, you walk in, you're wearing a suit and tie. Everybody's wearing suit and ties. Everybody walks judiciously because you have signs on the wall, New York Stock Exchange, FINRA, SEC, regulated by, and there's plaques and there's certificates and all this good stuff. So it's intimidating. And it's designed to be that way. And so, and then you meet the executives, and everybody's, suit and tied up. They have a serious type demeanor, and you're registered and regulated by the stock exchange and by various authorities. So when Jordy recruited a lot of these kids from Long Island, they thought they were doing the right thing. But he taught them basically how to steal from people. They never did real business there. Jordy never did real business. The whole thing was designed as a criminal enterprise. And he admitted that. And, in order to avoid going to jail for like 30 years, he wore a wire, and he went in, and all these kids he recruited in and taught them how to steal, he got them to say things on camera, on audio, and basically, the feds arrested them all. And they say Jordy gave 80 prosecutable cases.
I didn't know that.
Nobody knows that.
I did not know that.
It's at the end of the book. They make mention of it, but
they just put
small
print.
And that's why he only got 22 months. And he gave them some big guys that the feds couldn't get, and that's why they took so much off his sentence. In my case, I went down to Wall Street in 1983. I was in the number one ranked training program in the history of Wall Street, the E.F. Hutton training program. Serious people doing serious business. I didn't even know an over-the-counter stock. I never did an over-the-counter stock till 1986. I started in 83.
Wow.
I only did agency commission, New York Stock Exchange, big board stuff. I did a lot, millions in bonds. I did insurance. I was like, picture when you go to the grocery market, right? Every aisle's got different stuff, right? That's what the big wirehouses are. In 19, I became the number one, the most successful young broker at EF Hutton. I was the number one in new accounts. I opened up 300 accounts plus, 300 plus, maybe 330.
How old are you?
In my first year, I was 26, I think.
And you were making, as far as that, $250,000 a month.
Well, my first year, I made 330 grand or so. My first year in the business.
The whole year?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was a young trainee. After that, I got to the point where I was doing about 40,000 a month. I made about 500,000 in my second year. My third year, I was en route to make about 600, but I had like what you call a breakthrough, and I made $1.2 million, and I never made under $1 million for the next 25 years. And I'm what they call $1 million producer. So you know what par is in a golf course?
Of course.
You know, a golf course is designed for a pro to shoot like a perfect round. It's each hole has a certain number of strokes, right? And everybody strives for par. So in Wall Street, par for a Wall Street broker is $100,000 a month. You know, so that's the goal, is to get to $100,000 a month in earnings.
And this is then, though. But we're talking a different time. $100,000 a month. I mean, that's like what, 400,000. I mean, it's
today
crazy numbers.
Today it's probably close to 400,000.
Yeah, as I'm saying, it's crazy
It
numbers for that time. I mean, what you could buy for 100,000 and the dates you just said,
right?
Insane.
I bought an apartment in 1983 for $62.5. Today it's worth like $7 million in New York City. But yeah, so the you know, basically I could afford anything. I bought race cars. I invested in everything you could think of, what we call lifestyle investments. I was single in Manhattan, but the thing is, I was a drug addict. My dad died when I was 16.
Yep.
I was really a pretty good athlete. I was a jock. I was a good student. I loved to read. I like to say I was a normal kid. My dad died suddenly of a heart attack, and I just cracked like an egg. He had all these plans for his life, and I was his firstborn son. I have a younger brother, 3 years younger, and my mother was 10 years younger than him. So he's 48, she's 38, and we had a nice little life, and we had big plans for my life. It was we had lived in I grew up in an upper middle class sort of neighborhood. Mm. We were the bottom of the upper middle class. But my parents were striving every month, living the American dream, right?
Working hard.
Just working hard.
Yes.
My dad never made more than 50 grand a year while he was alive. The year after he died, his partner made $1 million. It's like,
so he
built the business and then he passed away.
Just missed it before it.
Right. They built a very unique business. They were in the ladies' handbag business. But to make a long story short, you know, when my dad died, he had all these plans. We would talk about Acapulco and all the things he was striving to do in the future. And when he passed away very suddenly, right after the funeral, my cousin and I took a walk because I was really like, obviously. I was stunned. That's all I could say, stunned. And he took out a joint. I took one hit on that joint, and my life changed. All of a sudden, it was manageable.
Yeah, because you want to sedate yourself, right? You want to sedate yourself.
Looking back now, I guess I was medicating myself.
You're medicating yourself, as so many do.
But I stayed stoned every day for 17 years till I was 33. I stayed stoned.
That's a long time.
And I started with weed, right? And I started with I had a real run. I started with weed. Like when I do anything, that's who I am. I hate to say it. I was a great drug addict. I was phenomenal. I was really good at it.
If you're going to be good,
right? You're going to be great. And I teach that
from good to great, right? One of the best business books of all time.
If you're going to do anything in this world, be great. You don't have to do everything. I tell my kids this. But if you're going to do something, you strive for greatness.
Yeah, we're certainly not recommend no drugs, alcohol.
Well, if you're going to drink a drug, do it. So what happened was, I just said, you know what? There's no future. I realized that it's an illusion. We're sold by an establishment that tries to control us. Right? At any moment, our ticket comes up. Right? Our ticket is punched. God says that's it. That's it. And I said, you know what? I'm going to live today, every day. So if there was a gorgeous girl that I wanted to meet, I just went right up to her. If there was, something I wanted to do, I did it, whatever it is. And what happened was at some point, it became very expensive to live that life, right? It's not easy to be a drug addict and to date beautiful women and drive great cars and go to great restaurants and do big time things, right? So, as luck would have it, I discovered the stock market, a place where I could go. I could be stoned. Nobody cares as long as you show up and you dial that phone 300 times a day, and as long as you understand the game. Because everything in life is a game, and I teach this stuff. Everything in life is a game, but you always play to win when you play. Right? You play games. You don't play to lose.
Life is a.
Everything
I talk
in life
about
is
the
a game.
same. Everything is a game.
But
It's
to win, play to win, right? No one plays to lose. You ever play any game to lose? No such thing. But so I found Wall Street, and as luck would have it, I'm a very functional addict, very functional. I could show up, and I was young. I was not quite like you, but I was thin and looked good, and I could stay up for days if I had to, which I did often. And I was reasonably successful. I look back now, because when I got sober, my life changed instantly. I became a different version of Ross. I became mega wealthy. I was making more than $1 million a month. One year I made more than $1 million a week. I made $65 million one year. I've been.
How'd you get by?
I've been in feet.
How'd you get by with
It's
that?
not easy.
Okay.
It's very easy to spend money at every level. There's a whole world of.
Oh, you could lose. You could lose. Like look at all these ball players. They lose.
Right.
And they're broke.
A lot of guys. A lot of these guys have come to me, and I spent my whole life basically advising rich people. Not that I have nothing against people that are not wealthy, but when you're in a business of making money, you only have so many hours a day. You only can make 10 pitches a day is the number. So you're going to call rich people, and you're going to pitch rich or wealthy people. And at some point, on an opening trade, it had to be $10,000 or more. If you said I want to buy a stock, it's $8. I'll send you I'll buy 1,000 shares. I say I can't take it.
Not enough. You just
no. We had a
those
minimum of 10,000.
You had a minimum, right? But if they didn't want to do that, it's like you're.
By the
wrong
time I'm a
place,
CEO,
right.
if you couldn't send me $250,000 to open an account or $500,000, I would recommend another broker.
Of course. I mean, that's the way the game is played, right? You're just
because I only have
levels,
so much time.
Levels.
Right. Everything's levels, and what people don't understand that don't have money, you don't even understand that there's a whole world around you, right around you. You see every day that you don't understand. Because when you have a certain level of money, there are people that find you. They know. They hunt you down. And all of a sudden you start to get pitched and proposed and all these different things because there's a whole world going on of people that just serve wealthy people, right? And that I was one of those guys for many years, and at some point then I become a very wealthy person. And, it's people that find you.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because one of the reasons for me doing this show, not necessarily, like just with you, but just doing like the business aspect of things, which is something I'm really going to focus in on, just going forward instead of just always talking about like health and wellness is obviously my passion. I talk about that all day, right? But when it comes to the business aspect of things, and you can certainly speak to this because I'm sure you've had thousands of clients that are like in the healthcare, they tend to be the least educated in what is going on, the amount of money that's out there, the amount of money that is being taken out of the hands. You know how I feel. You've heard me talk about it. And again, no one's going to give doctors sympathy. I get it. That's fine. I always start with that. I see my fellow doctors out there, right? They're carrying pagers. They're in the hospital all the time. They get no sleep. They don't see their families. They're missing weekends. They miss their kids' stuff. They do all the stuff. And meanwhile, all this stuff is going out in the world, and if they knew the right people, where to go, had the right advice, then they don't have to be hostage to a system that is absolutely taking people prisoner. And I say that with no holds barred. I don't care. I watch some of my colleagues. They're in their 70s now. They're in the doctor's lounge. Multiple divorces, all this money they've gone out, and some of them they're almost broke. They did all that. If they had been around the right people and had the right, advisors, they would be completely different. And so that's why this whole concept of doing this like sovereign provider mastermind that I'm launching is critical because they need to hear conversations like this. They don't. They hear conversations about how, like some drug works or some psych, and they're obsessed with that. But meanwhile, the whole world is passing by. And it struck me because you just said people have no idea. I mean, there's infinite amounts of money out there. It's insane, and the people that are in the know, it all flows to them.
Let me say this to you, because you've hit on something that's brilliant. I want you to understand, and I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way. But when I went down to Wall Street in 1983, there's a certain amount of things they tell you. There are certain little tidbits of information that are passed on. Some of you are not going to love to hear this. They say never do business with a woman. They say never do business with an Indian named Singh. They say MD, after a guy's initials, he's doctor, means money dumb. Because while you're
100%,
while you're in school, and to get into medical school, you have to be a good student. You have to get good grades, right? This is what traditional, I'm an old timer. Things might have changed a little bit, but I'm just telling you what we were taught, right? This is not me. I do business with women all the time. I have a tremendous amount of Indians I do business with. But
you're just saying what you said. I mean,
this is what they pass on to everybody. Not to me. They pass this on to everybody. MD means money dumb.
No, that is true. But I
said,
true. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
I question everything.
People.
I question everything.
Yeah.
Even then, I said, why? I don't get it. Doctors, I thought, I go into the doctor's office back in the 80s. My doctor's like, God, whatever he says, I'm doing. He says this or that, my salt, my cholesterol, all these different things. You listen to what he says. That's changed now. But back then, you are focusing on school. I was in college, and I was rounding up kids and selling them tickets so they could go to the disco on a Sunday night or a Monday night that was traditionally an empty night for the club. And I was getting thousands of kids to show up at a party for $18 a ticket, and they get one free drink, and I was making $2-3 grand a night in college, twice a month, making $4 to $6 grand a month. I'm a college kid. You were worried about getting good grades, learning, and so you can go to after studies, you can go to a medical school.
Right.
Well, you're in medical school. I'm hustling in Manhattan. I'm in New York City, grinding away at the office at 8 o'clock, drinking coffee, and just doing things, selling, learning about the world, about how things work, etc. It takes a minute, no matter who you are, to figure the game out, to understand that there is even a game. Because the establishment, the institutions are trying to show you the path that they've created that they want you to follow.
And it's brilliant for the institutions.
And it's bullshit. Now it's being revealed. See, this is what the brilliance of technology has done, the connectivity. We had no cell phones when I went down to Wall Street. We didn't have computers.
Yeah, you just didn't know.
I learned how to trade stocks on a ticker tape. That's why I'm so good at it. It's like, imagine how they did surgery in the 80s. I mean, can you imagine? Now you go in, you got every tool, every piece of equipment. We used to have to figure out what a moving average is. You guys even know what a moving average is? No, you press a button and it shows up on the computer 8 different ways. I get it on my phone. We didn't have computers. We didn't have Google. We had none of these things.
Listen, they had to bring Apollo 13 down, manually figuing it out, right? They're just testing.
Correct.
They didn't know it was
but I question everything.
It's crazy, but
they did it, right? Imagine how you were a spine surgeon. How the fuck did they do spine surgeries in the 70s and 80s?
I mean, it was just a little bit different. A lot more blood loss. A lot, the equipment was.
They barely had X-rays, no MRIs, none of those.
Just to give you an
things.
example, because people don't know. Again, we're not focusing on medicine, but when you do scoliosis surgery, I mean, in kids, you would just scrape up stuff and put them in something called a spica cast. You just put them in a cast a long time, kind of straighten them. This is for the little kids that usually have some kind of syndrome or something like that. But just general skull, you put one hook on top, one hook on the bottom, and a rod. Okay, it's called the Harrington rod. This is a famous guy, Dr. Harrington.
How much money he made?
Now you're putting not enough,
right.
But now you're putting screws at every single level. There's all these different derotating tools. We have AI tools so that we can plan exactly where we want to fix the curve and what the strategies are.
Imagine no MRIs.
And the outcomes are better. I mean, the outcomes are better.
Right.
Yeah, even before MRIs, people would do stuff. They would diagnose this by exam, and then you'd have to way before that, like when you didn't know. People would have to just go in there and just guess.
So I'm on Wall Street. Yeah. We had no email, no fax machines, none of these things. You would write a ticket. The way it would be executed to the stock exchange was like,
you hand it to the guy, right? And he runs.
Oh, they had tubes. They put it in a tube. They had runners. All these.
I watched the movies.
Crazy, right? And So, I learned how to make money, how to produce profit, how to do business with no tools. So as tools came in, for me, it was like a gift from God. I'd be sitting there scribbling, trying to figure shit out. All of a sudden, I just press a fucking button. What? I'm trying to communicate with a guy. If he's not at home or in his office, we had to dial our phone.
you guys doing
Today? I got mobile phone. I'm calling guys all over the.
Simultaneously.
I'm just seeing how many guys, how many doctors. So when they told me, MD means money dumb, I focused on doctors because I figured doctors have a lot of money. I don't have to guess. If it says MD, money dumb, one thing I know, he's got money. So I ended up opening up my first 3 years, let's say, in the business. I had over 100 doctors as clients. And I had some surgeons. And I would call up, the hospital, and they say, he's in surgery, but hold on, we're going to get him. And I'm like, they put me on hold. I'm like, no, don't, it's not that important.
I don't take I've never taken a financial call while doing surgery.
I said, it's not that important. It's just, I'm a stockbroker. And he would come, 3 minutes later, he comes in. I said, Doc, what are you doing? He's like, what's going on? How's the market? What do you think? You got something? Should we buy?
While
Should we sell?
while he's doing surgery?
No, he left the surgery.
Okay,
He left the guy on the table.
This is real.
He left the guy on the table to get this phone call. But I hate to say, you know how many times that happened? Hundreds.
I'm sure.
Hundreds. And, I learned that most people put money before their health. That's one thing that I've learned in the real world. They never teach you this anywhere. But most people.
That's what I'm trying to teach.
Most people put the opportunity to make money as their number one thing before their health. And I hate to say it, I'm one of those people.
And it makes it makes no sense.
Well, dollars and cents it makes.
It makes
it doesn't make common sense.
You know what makes sense if you're 25 or 35.
Right.
But when you're chasing money and you're 55 and you're sick, it makes no sense.
Well, the point is, you hear what the doctor said?
It makes
Get
zero
your
sense.
money when you're young. Because when you're old, the last thing you want to do is have to.
I mean, listen, health is wealth. All these guys, listen, because I do so much in business, get to meet a lot of people, and every time I run into somebody who's doing real well, but they're not healthy at all, I always try to have that conversation with them if I know them enough to be able, to broach that subject. I don't want to offend anybody.
Right.
And just say, hey, you look like crap. Can I help you?
Right.
Like, what do you need? If I don't know them, but if I get to know them a little bit, I start asking them, what are you doing?
Right.
And then people start getting teary-eyed. They're upset. They're like, oh my God, I have chronic pain. I talked to a guy. We were just talking about just random health stuff. Very wealthy guy. And next thing you know, he's got all upset. And he's like, I've been living in this chronic pain for 10 years. They're a wealthy person. And they don't know what to do. And there's all these strategies to do, but you're so busy, focusing on other stuff because they think, it's just people. You're absolutely right. They definitely put, money over that. And without your health, you got nothing, right? Just think about this. When you're sick, right? When you have the flu,
right.
Do you care how much money you have? Well, you don't care at all.
With age comes wisdom, right? So I'm going to tell the audience this. I have 100 issues going on. But as soon as I have a health issue, I only have one issue.
Bingo.
But I'm young. I'm on Wall Street. I'm making literally millions.
It's a different time, yeah.
And this is a famous part of my story. August of 1983, I get approved. I get into this E.F. Hutton training program. I don't know the difference between a stock and a bond. I'm the only guy that's not a CPA, an attorney, or an MBA. I'm a sales guy, and I talked my way in. I'm good. I'm a good sales guy. And I put $1,500 into my stock account at E.F. Hutton, 1983. August of 1980. By March of 1987, my 30th birthday, it was over $31 million. And I spent somewhere between $5 and $10 million along the way. I was flying in private jets in 1986 and 87.
Which is insane.
There was no rappers. There was no athletes or movie stars. The only guys that were flying on private jets with me was Bob Kraft. I'm like, who are you? Bob Kraft. I go, what do you do, Bob? He goes, macaroni and cheese? I said, yeah, I grew up on macaroni and cheese. That's how I got through college. He goes, that's me. You're Kraft. Okay, nice to meet you. We got on a jet together. All I'm trying to say is that I was in a very unique category, but I'm a raging drug addict. And I have money. The Coke dealer would be waiting for my call. Everybody else is trying to make deals. Give me another 8 ball. Send me over another quarter. I'm this cocaine.
Just to keep it going.
I thank God for cocaine.
You just keep going.
Because if not for cocaine, I never would have got clean. Because eventually I hated the way it made me feel. I couldn't sleep. At some point, I didn't want to be touched. I didn't want to have sex. and I'm
And
paranoid.
then if you stop doing it, you crash.
I feel like I want to. I feel
Completely,
like I
completely
want to
crash.
die. I feel like
You have nothing.
It's,
There's no.
it's the worst.
Which is why, not a good idea.
So
but go ahead.
in October of 1990, I voluntarily committed myself to the Silver Hill Foundation, and I went into a 28-day program to clean up. I didn't understand sobriety. I didn't even know that you could go through the world without drinking or without drugging. For 27 straight years, I stayed stone cold sober. Now I say
awesome.
sober because a lot of guys say they're sober, and they're abstinent from alcohol and drugs. They're drug-free, alcohol-free. But to me, sobriety was much more than being abstinent. It's by living by a set of rules and code. And I'll give you an example. Danny Porish was the Jonah Hill character in the movie. Danny lives right here in Boca Raton, very close to where we are.
This is
right
in Wolf of Wall Street we're talking about.
Yeah,
for
he's
those
the
of you
Jonah
who
Hill
don't know.
character
Yeah.
from the movie Wolf of Wall Street. In fact, when the movie came out, he rented out the whole movie theater, and we all went there. Danny was the president. At the time, I was newly sober, October of 90, and they're making millions, right? They're in their height in the 90s. And I'm walking on 3rd Avenue one day in Manhattan, and a limousine comes flying by, stops, reverses, and the window comes down. It's Danny. Danny and I grew up together. Steve Madden and I grew up together. All the guys that ran and operated Stratton, with the exception of Jordy, we all grew up together. Lawrence High School, class of 75, 50-year reunion, March 21st, right here in town, right here in Deerfield. We are staying, by the way. And Danny and I got in the limo. Danny was telling me they're making millions. He's been following my career. I was the first guy in the class of 75 that went into the stock market. And I was the first guy that was making real money. And I'm the first guy that got sober. And I get in the limo, and he offers me $100,000 a month, plus all the commissions I can get. And he told me I would make millions. I would have. And to run Stratton. And he was going to provide me transportation, because I'm living in Manhattan. A limo would pick me up every day. It's a reverse commute out of Manhattan to where they're operating. They have their big headquarters, North Shore of Long Island. And the limo would take me back every night. Again, reverse commute against traffic. Because the traffic going in and out of Manhattan, rush hour is brutal.
I know it all
And they
too
wanted
well.
me to be like the president or CEO of Stratton. And at the time, I was newly sober. I was just coming back. I went from having $31 million to actually owing $1 million. I was dead broke. I had $4,000 cash. I would put $2,000 in each one of my sneakers with the Dr. Scholl's foot. I was so paranoid. Newly sober. I had never done anything. I was like a 16-year-old boy. My emotional growth stopped. Was retarded when I started using drugs and alcohol addictively, which was when I was 16. And I'm 33 now.
I mean, you were in a trance.
What?
For years. You're in a trance.
Well, no, I was highly.
I mean, you were
I
there.
was operating, but
you're operating,
at one
but
level.
But
at one level,
at
I'm
a different
operating.
level. But you're still
But
like
as a human being, I had
Yes.
never done anything
Yes.
sober. Kissed a girl, made love to a girl, done a deal, made business. Did stock. I had to relearn everything as a sober.
You know what
guy.
that does to your your dopamine circuits in the brain, the pleasure reward. It's broken.
Yeah, it was.
It's
I was
broken.
broken.
It's hard to find joy outside of that
Here's what
until you find
here's
it.
what they tell you.
Yes.
They say to you, for every year that you use addictively, it takes, and when you get clean, you get abstinent, it takes 1 month to heal. So I was 17 years addicted. So it took me 17 months to heal, and that was almost to the letter. So that's wisdom I want to share. Every year that you're drinking and using drugs or anything, workaholic.
Workaholic. I mean,
Right. Whatever your addiction
addictions out
is,
there. Yep.
it took me 17 months, roughly a year and a half, to get my feet back on, to be fully. But again, I'm a different kind of guy. I'm wired in a certain way, and to the world it appeared that I was exceptional, but I was struggling with a lot of little things. I'll never forget my first date, but that's a whole other story. So I'm seeing a psychiatrist, and I go to my psychiatrist. I said, listen, I could get on my feet instantly. They're going to give me $100,000 up front, and then $100,000 a month to run Stratton Oakmont, right? And then commissions. With my book of business, I would have made probably $1 million a month, because it was a very crooked firm, and I knew that. Everybody in the industry.
Is that what people call a boiler room?
It was a real boiler.
A real
It was
boiler
even
room.
worse. but it was like a criminal enterprise, period. And you could dress it up in a lot of different ways, but it was just flat out. So you might as well just get with a bunch of guys and rob armored cars.
So the stocks that those guys were trading, right? A lot of people have, whatever, seen that movie. Those stocks, they were real stock. They were just,
they just made them up.
OTC. They just made it. But were there actual businesses behind them, or it was like just like a warehouse with an address?
Some of those.
And this is a new tech company.
So like there was this one of the kids, was on Long Island, and his kid was taking karate. And there were 2 karate schools. They said, all right, let's make that a stock. And they brought that to the market, and it was worth like, $50 million. It was 2 fucking karate schools. The guys were struggling to make rent. I'm not joking.
$50 million for the
that was the market value, the market cap. They would pump it up, and then they would just dump.
Then they just
pull the trigger. Once they sold their stock, it was all rigged. All was criminal. But so I went to my psychiatrist, Dr. Knauer, and unfortunately he passed away right before my wedding. He changed my life. And Dr. Knauer looked at me and said, I told him the whole story. He would just sit there and look at me. He was a neurosurgeon, by the way. He stopped surgery and he became a psychiatrist.
Interesting.
He's the father of the study of addiction in the United States, Dr. Arthur Knauer. Very famous, very revered. And he looked at me and said, are you still sober? I said, yeah. He goes, did you get sober to run an operation like this? Like, he never told me anything. He would ask me a question. I said, what do you mean? I said, I can make all this money. He says, but you just explained to me that they cheat people, right? Oh, yeah, they do. And you just explained to me that, it's a criminal operation. I said, it is. He goes, is this why you got sober? I said, well, I'm not going to drink and take drugs. But that's when it became very clear that there's a moral element to being sober. There's an expression in the program. They say, what happens when you get a drunken horse thief sober? Now you just got a horse thief. And, it's hard sometimes to take these actions that you would take. When you're in prison, and, I went to prison, we're going to get to that.
We're going to get there.
But let me just tell you, pretty much everybody in prison had a drug or alcohol problem. Pretty much everybody. There's very few sober guys out there that are committing crime.
But the question is, do they do the drugs and alcohol because they are, are just trying to suppress who they really are and they still commit crimes? Or does the drug and alcohol addiction make you do crimes? For me, I feel like it's the essence of who you are. I mean, people are either willing to cross the line or they're not, whether or not it's drug or alcohol. I mean, people, we could debate this all day, and it's not everybody. Some people, like, obviously they go on a bender and they go do something dumb. I'm talking about like a long, like a career thing. It's
I don't
very
think
different.
there's a one size fits all.
Yeah.
Everybody's different. Yeah. But people they get fucked up. They get stoned, whatever it is. They get drunk, and all of a sudden, something that was on their mind, they just act out. They act out. It's much easier to act out.
But that's my question. It's like, you know what I'm talking about,
I do
right?
know
There's
exactly.
Some people, right? They drink, they cry the whole time.
We
That's
could
inside.
spend-
They're sad.
right.
And then there's people that drink and they go
We could
berserk.
spend hours discussing
Hours,
this.
of course. This is deep
Right.
philosophical
but I just
stuff. But
wanna,
go ahead. Yeah,
I
keep going.
just want to share. So
Please.
It turns out I declined that offer, thank God. And pretty soon after that, they got in trouble, right? And another thing you should know is, in the movie, Jordan meets Nadine. He meets the Margot Robbie character, right? The, what do they call it? The Countess of Bay Ridge, something to that effect. The Duchess. And so he met her in real life through me. So I had a limousine for 12 years in Manhattan. I had, different cars and different. I was pretty wealthy, right? And this is when I was using. And so I had a girlfriend. They used to call her the Dragon Lady. She was half Korean, half Sicilian, bisexual. Lisa, little shout out. And she follows. We're still friends on Facebook. And she calls me up and she goes, "I hope you're not mad." I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "I grabbed your limo, and I'm in Brooklyn picking up my friend, and she's a lingerie model." And I arranged a meeting for us all. We're meeting after the close because she was, with me. And we're going to, I forget the name of the place, but a place on 2nd Avenue. It was a very hot spot. and we're going to meet this Jordan Belfort from Stratton. Now, by this time, I'm doing pretty well, and she comes to my office to pick me up. Mr. Levy opens the door, and I look in, and I'm staggered. There's this magnificent-looking blonde sitting in the back seat. Plus my girlfriend, Ginger, who passed away, Ginger Sassone, from Sassone Jeans. And I'm looking at this blonde, and I'm like, oh, my God. Now, she was a famous model at that time, very young, 21, 22 years old. She had just made like a diet a Pepsi commercial or a beer commercial. I forget what it was in Central Park. She was stunning, literally stunning, like Margot Robbie, like at that level. Now, it turns out she also lives in Boca Raton now, and she's been at my studio on my podcast.
That's awesome.
Nadine Grasso, and she confirms this whole story on video. So I want you, and Danny Porch, by the way, the Jonah Hill character, spent 6 hours in my studio on 2 separate occasions and confirms everything I said. So everything I say is documented. There's a lot of things I can tell you that are not documented, that are true, but I'm not even going to go there. So that day we get in my limo and we go across town, and Jordan for the first time meets the Duchess of Bay Ridge, and stunning. He was immediately taken with her. Jordan has that big eye thing. You know, when I see him, his eyes look like his eyelids are all the way open. His eyes are like this big eyeball thing. And, you know, I didn't particularly like him. Now, he's gotten sober since, but he was very active.
This is in the middle of his...
Yeah, this is...
It's well documented.
And he's not a likable... He doesn't have this likability factor. He's a great sales guy.
So he wasn't as likable as DiCaprio was kind of...
DiCaprio was very likable.
I mean, just DiCaprio's DiCaprio, who doesn't... He can play any
but
part.
He's likable in real life. He's a likable guy.
Yeah,
Jonah Hill is incredibly likable.
Yeah, Jonah Hill's the best.
Jordy doesn't have that likability thing. Even if you follow him on social media and all that stuff, you don't get that feeling. He's not like a warm, fuzzy type of guy, all these different things. So that was a very interesting thing. I get sober, I stay sober, and I start doing business. And I find the business easy. So now you have all these tools that we never had, right? Cell phones in the 90s, right? Personal computers, email, fax machines. What? I mean, everything was so easy. And I'm not struggling with, I'm hungover. I'm
calling your dealer.
I'm waiting for my deal. My dealers were on call 24/7. Remember, I had a lot of money.
I had to pay.
I was
like
a dream.
surgeons.
You know, at one point, when I was, at my bottom, I used to play in a card game in Manhattan in a bunch of apartments called Beta South. A guy named Joe Gilio used to run it for the Genovese family, I think. And, I had a $100,000 line of credit. And I played with Mickey Rourke. We'd do coke, and there were women and booze. We played sometimes for 3 days in a row. And it was like a wild scene. And so...
How was it hanging out with Mickey Rourke?
He didn't bathe often. But I would tell you, back in those days, I was also a wreck. But what I want to get to is life became easy. When you're taking drugs and alcohol morning, noon, and night,
well, that's your upset. I mean, that's all you. That you got.
No, that's automatic. That's like brushing your teeth.
But if you don't have
combing
it,
your hair.
But if you're missing it,
no, you got to get it. But also, that they have less of an effect over time, right? So with the little bit of coke you would do,
it's like anything, right?
You need more to activate that feeling
to get the to bind to the receptors. We're not going to get into the deep
now.
Medicine.
I'm highly functioning. It's like a different version of Ross Mandell that I'd never met before. Remember, I was 16 when I started drinking and drugging, and.
When did you become rockin' Ross Mandell?
Well,
was it?
I'm on my way. So 30s.
Were you rocking when you became sober? Or were you already rocking Ross?
I was considered the most fun guy on Wall Street. So when I got sober, nobody even wanted to hire me. You would think that you would want me. I don't do drugs. I don't do alcohol. I go to 2 meetings a day. I pray. I have big book meetings on the weekends. Nobody wanted to go near me. I swear to you, nobody wanted to go near me. And when I started a brokerage firm, and I recruited all sober people, the regulators had a big problem with it. They had a huge problem with it. It's the exact opposite of what you would think. They want people that can drink their scotch. Back in those days, we were smoking cigarettes at our desk.
Because you're taking the regulators out.
Well, no, at this point in time, I'm sober, and I'm recruiting people from the program, sober people. And I took pride in talking about it. And the regulators went fucking crazy. He's got a bunch of alcoholics and dry. Yeah, but they're sober alcoholics and dry. Go to any one of these brokerage firms that are doing business. Half these guys are fucking in the bag. They got cocaine in their pockets. They got drug dealers. They're taking pills. Now today they're taking Adderall. They're taking Xanax to go to sleep. You know, I mean, this is the game. This is what the game is. You know, this is like high stakes. I don't want to say gambling, but it's we call it investing. But what do you think? People are taking shots. There's no they use the idea of it's a blue chip stock. The market's down 800 points today right now. The blue chip stocks are getting down on 15, 20 points. That's not gambling? I mean, we could go on and on about this, but I'm talking about my story. Now, all of a sudden, I'm clean, and I see the world differently, and I'm doing good things because I'm not just abstinent. I'm sober, right? I'm helping people. I'm giving of myself, and I was asked to run the biggest life science company in the world. 1994, I was recruited by the youngest member of the Forbes 400. On his 30th birthday, Merck gave him a check for $300 million for a company it's called Genetic Systems. They later sold the company for $25 million. But Merck paid $300 million. And he was 30 years old, and he invested it in a bunch of companies. And that $300 million became, you know, hundreds of millions more in value. He was considered the top venture guy, private equity guy on all Wall Street. 1994, David Black, D. Black and Company, a magnificent office at 599 Lexington Avenue, had the whole floor. And he was interviewed. He wanted me really badly to come in and run his company. By this time, everybody on Wall Street saw that the sober Ross Mandell wasn't a freak. This is a guy everybody wanted. I was like an athlete, a highly paid athlete. I'm generating hundreds of thousands of commission dollars every month. And the way it works on the street at that level, you get half, the firm gets half. So you have a firm, you bring Ross Mandell in, and he does $300,000 in business. You get $150,000.
Just for having you.
Just for having me. I am now a
Let's call
beast.
It a rainmaker.
I'm a beast.
It's a rainmaker.
And I always was, by the way, even when I was young, looking back, because once I began to own firms, I realized the real value of a producer. Because they don't just make money on any commissions, they're trading against you. There's a million things that go on. Wall Street is the greatest racket in the history of mankind, really is. That's really organized crime, and that's for a different conversation. So now I get in and I start, they hire me, and 12 people work for me in my little office, which was a huge. The guy goes, I'm in the Forbes 400. We know, David. He goes, you see this office? I said, it's the most beautiful office I've ever seen, David. He says, I'll tell you what, you signed this deal, and he's giving me hundreds of thousands up front. He goes, this is your office. I'm walking out. This is your office. I said, what do you mean? He says, you like this office? It's the most plush office I've ever seen in my life. Different colors, marble, and magnificent. He says, this is your office now. I'm walking out. Sign the paper. I signed the paper. He walks out. It's now my office. I have the nicest office, one of the nicest buildings in Manhattan, and I'm now running the biggest life science investment firm in the world. We had Nobel Prize winners. We had Lasker Award winners, which is the Nobel Prize for chemistry. Yeah. We have 1,400 guys between Florida, New York, London, Boston.
How quick did you get to 1,400?
No,
when
I walked
the
in,
firm,
and they wanted me to be the big guy there. And I start doing business, and now I'm doing monster business, and I got 12 guys working for me, and I'm doing all offshore business, meaning I made a decision when I got sober. I looked at the industry, and I said, wow. When I started, it was wide open. All of a sudden now, I was sober. I came into the business in 83. By the time 91 comes by, now I'm sober. I'm starting over. There was now a brokerage firm on every corner of every town, in every city, in every state in this country. They just grabbed it all. I said, what the fuck, man? Now, I'm a great sales guy, and I can, I know how to get business from anybody, but I didn't see the opportunity I saw in 83 when I started. I'm very good at isolating opportunities.
Skating to the park.
And I said, you know what? What if I call England? They speak English there.
They sure do.
What if I call Wales? What if I call Scotland? What if I call Ireland? What if I call, and that's early in the morning because it's a 5-hour time, but then later at night, what about Australia and South Africa and New Zealand? All these places, they pick up the phone, they speak English. I want to start calling overseas. And, you can't do that. It's unheard of. Nobody's doing it. And then I found, we did some research and found out it was entirely plausible. And in fact, because of a little something they call geographical integrity, nobody was calling them from America because, so you had, all the big boys had offices there. Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, all the big boys had offices all around the world. So the guys from America couldn't call into these areas because that
was
geographical
they
integrity,
ran that, right.
they had offices. So I put together 12 people, and we just started, they would come in at 4 or 5 in the morning, and we would start calling England and Scotland. Now, there's a procedure you had to follow, and we did that. I never got in trouble there. And eventually, I would open up an office there. I'd have 30,000 square feet in the city proper, right outside the Cannon Street Tube Station. And all you guys out there know it. I'm giving you guys a shout out because I sold that operation, and now it's Bowstead Securities. David, what's shaking, baby? And they're running it. They own 14 offices around the world right now, and they're the number one underwriter of companies to NASDAQ for 3 of the last 4 years.
That's insane.
Bowstead Securities. But at the
And
time...
you lived in London?
Well, let me explain. So we start calling London and Wales, Scotland, Ireland, literally South Africa, New Zealand, all around the world. And at some point, towards the end of my run, Barclays Bank made a proposal to buy us for $300 million, and we had 10,000 millionaires as clients in Sky. Now, of course, I don't have clients anymore. I'm the CEO. I have 4,100 people under my on my payroll every 15 days. But I sort of owned them all. Right, it was my firm. I'm the CEO. I'm the controlling stockholder. I have the checkbook, everything. We had 200 million cash and no debt. I was over 300 million for the company at that point, and that was the one thing I regret. That was my ticket out.
My next question.
They wanted me to take that money, but to make a long story short, so I built up a huge brand overseas. I was recognized by Forbes, Wall Street Journal, CNBC, Fortune, eventually by the United States government. They said they testified to all the things I'm sharing with you guys today in court. It's all available on my docket, public docket, right? I took them to trial because they invented a crime that didn't happen. So you know what happened with Donald Trump? He's an ex-president of the United States. Donald Trump was all of a sudden charged with 92 criminal counts. He has no criminal history. He was a president of the United States. He's charged with 92 criminal counts. He's convicted of 32. I've only been convicted of 4. He's sitting in the White House. He's the president. Maybe I could be like a senator. I'm like a child. I'm like a kid compared to this guy. The point I make is the world now sees how disgusting and fixed and dirty, corrupt the legal system is in the United States. And I say this with deference. A lot of the minorities, right, have been talking about this for many years. Black guys pulled over. Why? Because he was black, and then they make some kind
It's
of
called
crime.
DWE.
You know what?
Driving while black.
Right. I want
It's
you to
a
know,
real
in
thing, by the
prison,
way.
they talk about it. I, as a white guy in the system, never thought about these kind of things. All of a sudden, they want to charge me with the crime, and I didn't commit a crime. So you show me the guy, I'll show you the crime. That's what's happening in the justice system today in the United States right now. They're showing how corrupt the FBI is. So Kash Patel just fired 10 FBI agents that illegally wiretapped his phone, wiretapped Susie Wiles, Trump's number one girl who runs his whole, that runs the cabinet and everything else, right? They were illegal. She was talking to her attorney, and the legal, Trump's number one girl in the White House is talking to her attorney, and they were illegally wiretapping it with some bullshit papers they've served. And so they call it lawfare now, right?
I think this has been going on for a long time.
Right.
I think
it's always
the
corrupt,
weaponization of.
But now it's
just,
blatant. Now it's so blatant because we have the internet, we have social media, we have cell phone technology.
You see what insurance companies are doing.
Well, that's another thing.
In healthcare,
What you're
you want to
revealing.
talk about the weaponization of systems
To make money.
literally killing people.
But
Literally.
I want you to know this
Yes.
happened to me.
Yes.
In 2009, they manufactured a crime and they indicted me.
Yes.
And they blamed me with the entire too big to fail, the mortgage fraud crisis. I had nothing to do with any of this stuff. I had already sold my company. They told me I was not going to be indicted. They asked me some questions. I answered them. Attorney said, you can go to sleep now, because they were after me for a long time. But when shit goes wrong in this country, they need to round up the usual suspects, like at the end of Casablanca. There's a crime. Round up the usual suspects.
I got a quote here. You said this. You said the feds don't want the truth. They want to win. They don't care about the body count. They care about the headline.
Correct. That's exactly right. They're trying to appease the citizenry, like they're doing something. Meanwhile, all the companies that were too big to fail, they failed. They needed the taxpayers to bail them out. They used our money to bail them out, and they fuck us. It's just a crazy system. But again, once you understand the game, you got to figure out how to play to win.
Let me ask you a question. So American Greed, right? Season 9, episode 15.
I'm the finale of season 9.
Season 9 finale.
The most important federal case in the whole country.
All right. So
in 2011.
So this whole thing happens, right? With whatever. We're not going to get that deep into it because people don't know. They'd have to investigate and look at dockets and all this stuff. But they should watch the movie. Exactly. They should watch. You should watch the show. It's a great episode. I really enjoyed watching that episode. Actually, what do you think about what we're going to get into the whole prison thing, which is really interesting because that is a story of resilience, and people love the stories of people that have been through these things, whatever. But before the prison thing, they made a couple sarcastic remarks in the show. I'm sure you've watched it 100 times. He said that it was this, like that this was worth this much, that the stocks were this. Right. But then the guy's like, but that wasn't true. But that's a. Do you feel like a lot of just people that just kind of bailed on you, the guys that were closest to you, and were just saying anything just to cover their own like people? That's what people do.
There were 4 guys.
It was him.
There were 4 guys that committed real crime. They were cheating customers, and not even real crime. It was really mostly a what they call a regulatory infraction, not a criminal infraction, right? And but only the lawyers know that part. They were doing the wrong thing, right? Ethically, they were doing the wrong thing. They were cheating some customers, and they got caught. And it was about making money, right? It should have been more of a civil thing, and they should have been kicked out of the business. There's no criminality. They should have been sued by the clients. They should have been fired by my firm, et cetera. But I didn't know about it. And I'm basically shaking hands. I'm semi-retired. I'm on the beach. I'm worth close to $350 million. I had a big, beautiful company. I was running 2 public companies that I founded and floated and built. I had the number 1 performing stock in all of Europe for 4 years, and the second one 2.5 years. I had a fund that I was trading publicly. I was up big money. And I had no complaints, no lawsuits. But I just want you to understand, a couple of guys got caught, basically cheating, and they got arrested. And the Fed said, listen, you're facing 30 years in prison, which was a lie, but that's what they do. They scared the fuck out of you. And they said, you're going to go to jail for 30 years. You have no defense.
Not what you want to hear.
Right.
You never want to hear that.
But if you could give us a name, a bigger name, we'd really like to get a senator, a congressman. We'd love to get Ross Mandell. Now, my head of operations, a guy named Stephen Shea, he said, it was me. Phil Kell, McCall Clyburn, Mike Pissarro. He named the different guys, and they were doing something, cheating customers, and Shea was parking stuff in our error account, which was a regulatory infraction. And the guys were cheating customers. They should have been sued. They weren't facing 30 years in prison. They didn't know because they knew they were doing something wrong. And so they created a narrative that Mandel knew about the whole thing. And that trial, in a 5-week trial, it became clear to everybody, including the judge, this was all bullshit. But the jury was a bunch of people. Not one of them, it's not a jury of your peers. These are people that most of them are unemployed. 4 of them didn't speak English, but the judge said they understood enough. Can you imagine? But they didn't speak. One of them ever had a stock account. Not one of them ever bought a stock in their lives, et cetera. They were really.
This happens every single day. I mean,
That's why I tell you the system is a scam.
Peers, you brought up before, what has happened to like minorities.
Correct.
Right. When a black man sits in like in front of a jury.
Right.
In the South.
He's a dead man. I already know this. I know this now, but I didn't know it.
You got no chance.
No chance.
You have no chance. This isn't a jury of your peers. They don't know. The people don't know anything about like their culture, their background, nothing. Right. And this happens all day, every day, just
And-
like it's happening right
and the
now in the
blacks
medical
and-
system.
and-
It's not.
and-
It's
and
to your
the other
peers. It's not a pure
minorities
thing.
have been complaining about this for the beginning of time.
Unfortunately, you found
and people
you
don't
found
know.
out the
Right.
hard way.
And now I'm like a brother.
Welcome.
Now I'm a brother.
Yeah.
You know.
So anyway, so all this stuff happened.
Right.
Before we go, I want to go into.
Yeah.
When everything was happening, the thing that it's interesting is I've watched a lot of your stuff, and you did something. And again, in the movie's different. Belfort. I don't know Belfort. I haven't talked to him. I probably will. One day, whatever. It's interesting. He's an interesting.
100%.
Very, very interesting guy. And he actually
Yes.
gave a keynote at this. And I was like I was the keynote speaker the year after. So I'm like, I am not
Right.
Jordan Belfort. Like whatever. So I was like, there's big.
He's very polished as a salesman.
But let me ask you a question. Something that you guys both did, which is interesting to me. Why taunt the Fed so much before that? Because you were clear. I mean, you were. I saw some of the videos you made, man.
I
You
went
were
after him.
just like, come and get
Right.
me kind of stuff.
But
Like,
I was.
what's that? What's that all about?
Because it was so ridiculous what was being done to me. It was just ridiculous. They created a crime that never happened. Now listen, I'm no angel. I operated in the gray area for a long time. I lived in the speculative end of the stock market, but I disclosed all that. I believe in full
I mean,
disclosure.
if it's
I do it
disclosed,
today.
it's different than
Right. I
yeah,
didn't believe that I still believe in this country. I was naive. I still believed that if I didn't do this crime, that I couldn't go to jail. I believed that. And I never should have. And
So is that why? So let me ask you a question. So again,
it was
you're
ludicrous.
on top of the world. You're worth $300 million, whatever. Is it that, or was it just kind of the ego? It was like, screw these guys. They don't have anything on me. Go, whatever. Or was it just like you knew that it doesn't matter what you do. They got
At some
you.
point,
There's nothing
at
you
some
can do.
point, I realized it doesn't matter how much I pay my lawyer. It doesn't matter what I do. I have to go into court and make a plea, get on my knees, and say I did something I didn't do. That's what this system wants me to do.
And that's what you did.
No.
No, you didn't.
So
you
I
just
said
told
to
them go.
Stephanie, I said to my wife at the time, she'll be here soon. I think I should make a deal. I could probably get like just 6 months house arrest, maybe some probation. We're living in a mansion. We had 4 homes, all these different things. I said, I'll write a check for $10 million. No big deal. And she goes, wait a minute. Because we knew everything about criminal law at that point. You become an expert, right? It's like if you get a disease, a spot.
You become
you
get a
become a
disease,
fucking
if
expert.
you get
on
Lyme
everything.
disease,
And
right?
now
You
we
know
have
more about Lyme
computers
than
and we have
whatever.
Google. We have
Yeah.
we became expert. You're going to go and open because every day at my trial there was 200 people there. Every newspaper, every news agency,
It's a big deal.
Covered. I'm on the front page of the big New York papers. Front page New York, front page New York, by picture, right front page.
And not for the reason you want it to be.
Right,
Obviously.
but I have been on the front page for
good
success.
stuff, for other
Yeah,
stuff,
6
for other
times.
stuff. But that not
But in this
those
case,
times.
I'm the front page of the South China Morning Post twice. They wrote 2 stories about me. A guy named Alex Lowe. Alex, a big shout out. He writes, if there's only one American name you should know, it's Ross Mandell. He writes that in front of it to 1 billion Chinese people. Ross Mandell. Google the South China Morning Post. You can read the stories. Not once, but twice, front page. He was a junior writer then. Now he's a senior big guy there. And when I go to China and speak, I hope you're going to be there with me. Alex is going to organize it all for us.
I've spent time in China.
You were just telling me about this. The clubs.
Beijing. It's amazing. But listen.
So I acted out. I acted out
That's
on
my question.
camera.
My question was,
and said, "Fuck you." And when I saw the judge's ruling for 2 years, I basically said, "You're not a judge.
Yeah.
You're just a stamp, a
'Cause the
rubber
truth is,
stamp
listen,
for the government."
Anytime we're wrong, everybody, all the great crew in the room, anytime you're wrong, obviously you want to say those things, right? You want to just give the middle finger to the world
I
and
did.
tell everybody.
I did.
And then you have to decide, is
I don't-
that going to help
listen,
me or is
listen.
that not going to help? So were you even thinking
let
that,
me
or you're
tell
like,
you.
you weren't even
Let me-
in that mindset? You were
No.
so enraged, you didn't
It's not even
give
that.
you didn't give a crap.
I'm authentic as fuck. I speak my mind. I speak the truth, and I continue to do that. And I got punished for it terribly during this period of time, right? I got punished for it terribly. 144 months in prison, millions of dollars in fines and all these different things.
That's a
They
good
took away
sentence.
about 200 million from me. But I just want to say like this. I continue to speak the truth. And that's what people love me for right now. And that's what people love me for in the stock market. Because everybody in this world is full of fucking shit. Everybody manufactures these identities and all these things. I'm the real deal. I'm not for everybody, but I'm always for somebody. I've always managed to be
No,
for
I
somebody.
listen, that
And I don't give a shit what the world thinks of me. I care what you think about me. I care what Kelly thinks about me. I care what the people I love that are in my world think about me. That's really important to me. And you know what my lawyer said, because at my sentencing, I went right up to the FBI agent that lied, and I said, "Fuck you." And the judge said to me, "This is the crazy thing." The judge
you
said
sound
to
like
me,
Capone.
"The judge said to me, you know what, Mr. Mandel," because he knew it was all bullshit. By this time, everybody. He goes, "If you didn't know, because these other people were committing crime, that came out. They were committing crime. I'm not involved in any of it at all. Not one thing. They doctored the tape for American Greed, so you know, they spliced it together. That's we heard the real tape. That wasn't the tape. That they doctored it for
That's
the
interesting.
show.
I didn't.
Of course,
I didn't know
how would
that,
you know?
'cause
They do that every day to people. But
the show's interesting because that show. It doesn't like you can't all the I've probably watched every American Greed episode.
great
It's
show.
interesting. That's
Great
why
show.
it's followed by millions.
Millions.
But obviously when you do a story and it's kind of manufactured, it's fabricated, right?
Right.
I'm going to say anything, like anything. When you watch 2020, right? They're just splicing whatever they
do
want
a lot of that,
because
60 minutes.
they're telling a narrative,
Right. They're selling a narrative.
They're selling what the story they want, and it has to fit.
Right.
This box because it's going to get better ratings.
If you watch this whole show on me, you can't see what everyone, even in prison, they said, "We still don't know what you did wrong." They have this one tape where they're trying to say that I told people to lie. I don't lie. I speak the truth. People respected me for that. I told my salesman, "You can't lie," but they doctored the tape. Otherwise, there's not one evidence of me doing anything wrong. Anymore.
Yeah, I think.
But the judge said to me, this was the stand that he held. He's supposed to be guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. That's from the Constitution of the United States. Better 100 guilty people go free than one innocent man be in prison.
Well, that's what our legal system is supposed to
It's
be built
based
upon.
on. That's
But
the jurisprudence.
like,
Now they've
like you said, people have known for a long time
Correct.
that. We could do. I mean, I could do a podcast just on the legal system and what happens to people, like the churn and
Correct.
burn, and when you get singled out, and again, some people get singled out for their race, creed, whatever it is. Other people get singled out just because they need somebody. They got to get a fit. They got to get the big fish. They
need to sell headlines. So they say, judge says to me in my sentencing, if you didn't know, meaning what all these other guys were doing, because they were trying to say, the government narrative was that I knew.
Yeah.
I knew and I looked the other way. That's what they were selling. The judge looks at me, if you didn't, Mr. Mandel, if you didn't know, with the finger, you should have known. It's supposed to be you're guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. If you didn't know, you should have known. That's the standard they held me to. I'm going to tell you something very interesting. You don't know this, but this is fact. It's in the record. Just Google it. During my appeal, the biggest association of lawyers in the world, over 23,000 lawyers, that's the New York City Bar
I
Association.
knew this. I saw that.
The judge is a member. The prosecutor is a member.
Truth.
The whole team are members. And everyone in the FBI that was involved in my case are members. Every lawyer in New York City is a member of the Bar Association. They came out and wrote an amicus brief on my behalf. And it was the biggest lawyer at the biggest law firm, Wachtell, George Conway, my brother, Wachtell, Lipton, Rosen and Katz, the highest paid lawyer bonuses in the whole world per lawyer. The biggest white collar law firm in the world. Got the New York City Bar Association to write an amicus brief to say Mr. Mandel must be not guilty. That I was convicted wrongfully, and the law states that, and the Supreme Court said that, and everything else. But that's the New York City Bar Association. My judge had to sign a paper to recuse himself. Because the association he belongs to, and my prosecutors, the association they belong to,
wrote a letter in support.
Said that my conviction was wrongful.
You can look that up. I found that. I mean, it's on.
Right.
I use that. I instead of Google, you just go on ChatGPT.
Right.
It comes right up.
Over 23,000 lawyers said I must be exonerated. And you know who was on the panel at my appeal? My trial lawyer was Judge Paul Crotty. His college roommate from Cornell Law School was the head of my panel. His best friend for 30, 40 years. a woman that was a judge for about 10 minutes, and they brought a senior guy in that was in his 90s that fell asleep during the whole oral argument. They had to wake him up. This is a true story. That all the media was it was the biggest scam in the world. And at the end of this 3-hour oral argument, the judge says to the prosecutor, you got to have some evidence there were some Americans that were wrong. If you don't, I mean, you must know this is a problem because they don't have any evidence I did anything wrong. And so the judge says, listen to this. We're going to give you 3 days, well, 1 week, I'm sorry, to submit an argument. We're giving the government 5 pages. That's your limit, 5 pages. Mr. Mandell, my lawyer, was allowed to do 3 pages, and Mr. Harrington, my co-defendant, was allowed to do 3 pages. So we had 6 pages of argument against the government's 5, in theory, right? You have to show that how this applied to some Americans. They convicted me of manipulating the London Stock Exchange while I was in London with no Americans. What am I doing in court? He gave the government a limit of 5 pages. They submitted a 350-page brief because there were no Americans. They submitted a 300 because I had an office on Wall Street, which is in America, and they just included every bill, every receipt, because we were in America. They were trying to say that we did business in America. So the appellate panel goes, okay, good enough for us, guilty.
But the clients were all overseas.
Correct. There was no Americans involved, no suits, nothing. I'm going to tell you this. When Jordy Belfort got out of prison, right, he had a victims Facebook group, over 200 victims, over 200 lawsuits. In America today, if you cheat somebody, you're getting sued. You're getting sued. It's the way it is. They basically claimed I defrauded people out of $140 million.
Isn't he paying him back with his book?
He's paying back, he's paid
some.
back.
I mean, you get a couple.
Well, they're after
back.
him because he wasn't paying, and he's made millions. He owed $92 million.
Suppose he's always on the speaking
Well, he's making
tour.
plenty of money.
Speaking
He's
tour. He
made
gets
back
paid
over
him.
$100 million,
Yeah.
I'm told. But I just want you to know, you know how many lawsuits I have?
I don't know.
0. Not one single person is suing me because my entire trial, all that shit was a complete sham. Nobody's suing me. And in fact, a good percentage of those people that are on the victims list are my close friends now and partners in Raw Media because people are attracted to me and know what I'm building is going to be huge and successful.
Well, what I like about what you said before, and I think this is real important, number one, authenticity is going to be the number one commodity going forward because even though we've all known how fake things are, it's just so fake.
Right.
It's getting faker, right? We're going into the age of AI, so you don't even know what's real or not. So I think that people are going to be attracted to authenticity in general. All this like AI-generated influencers and all this stuff. I mean, what is even the point of that? I don't even know what the point of it is.
Just to make money.
It's a bunch of nonsense.
Just
and
to make money.
influencers are freaking out right now because if you have an AI influencer, you can post 75 times a day.
And they do.
And so that if you're doing authentic stuff, these guys that had 1 million followers, now they're not even making money. They're paying, they're looking for jobs. They haven't worked. Some of these people haven't worked for a long time. So it's a crazy different world, but even more important than that. And I've actually posted about this a lot, which is about telling the truth. And no matter, even if the truth hurts, even if you screwed up, even if you did something wrong, even if something went wrong, if you just make it a habit of telling the truth, number one, like they always, what a tangled web we weave, all that stuff. It is true. If you're just saying how it is, that's what we talk about. Like when you do a podcast, you should be able to just sit there and not have to think about it. You just say whatever it is. It is what happened. You're not like, let me look at my notes to see if let me see what I said. Let me see my talking points, a la every politician right out there and all these other guys. No offense, I have some friends that are politicians, nice people, but they have to their talking points, and
ridiculous.
They may or may not be true. Whatever, but I think speaking the truth and being truthful and being authentic
being real
is so important. And your ability to really cut through the noise. And this is what I'm passionate. That's why I was really excited about having. Listen, your stories are amazing. We didn't even get to the prison. We're going to get there right now.
I'm ready.
But when you talk about the stories are great, but it's just this ability to cut through the noise. People, why I'm so passionate about this? Like I do the whole health thing, health and wellness. People are completely bamboozled.
That's your wheelhouse.
They have no idea how much the American public is brainwashed beyond. The thing that's scary is they don't even know how bad it is. They don't understand. I'm trying to get this out there. It's so bad. It's hard to explain. Every institution is just completely screwing them right now.
Corrupt.
And there's total misinformation out there. There's all these people doing this and that. The government's trying to. It's just wild. On the other hand, though, the other thing I'm real passionate about, which is why want to have people that really know how to manage in business and life and other things. And so, like everyone's going to have a different story, but people are also bamboozled as far as having their own personal freedom. And it is true because institutions are going to speak a certain game to you. They want to brainwash. It's just like our American education system for a long time, right? It all came out of like the whole Ford Motor thing, right? It's all about building slaves to the system.
100%.
And here's where my passion comes. So obviously I'm in healthcare. So I've watched these guys. I look at them, and I'm talking about from the most successful surgeons all the way down, to the people that are helping us and don't have big degrees. But I feel like they are missing out in what's available to them, and that's why listening to people like you, following you on your podcast and watching your show, they're not all going to vibe with you, right? Some people you're going to rub the wrong way. They're going to be like, oh, that's the American greed guy, or whatever, because everybody, that's people do whatever they do, whatever, right? Everyone likes what they like, but the important thing is you're cutting to the thing. It's like, wake up. Wake up. We're trying to wake people up. That's what we really have in common. It's this wake up thing. People are just lost.
Well,
right now, and it's hard to watch.
There's a way, for the first time in human history, 8 billion of us are connected. First time in history. Never before. Not yesterday, not last week, right now. Because of guys like Elon Musk and the satellite program, the Starlink.
Starlink's great.
I mean, and connectivity through pipes they laid across the oceans and cellular technology, and there's hotspots everywhere. And, but we've been separated, like it's right out of the Bible. We've been separated by languages, right? God got upset in the Bible. Tower of Babel, and he created 130 languages, right? But now, because of AI, that's gone.
It's one language.
I want you to know, I'm part of a meta program. It's a meta beta test program. Right now, every morning when I post, whatever I post, I'm translated in 9 languages. I'm going to show you after the podcast. I'm in Hindi, Tugulu, Kannada, Spanish, Portuguese. I'm in 9 languages right now. And I got followers that speak completely different language. They try and talk to me. They communicate, DM me and everything.
Human is human.
But I have no idea what they're fucking talking about. But when they when I open their phone and they see Ross Mandell's recommended as a follow and they check me out, it's in their home language. And here's what Meta tells me. By the end of 26, I'll be in over 100 languages in 130 countries. And let me just tell you, I'm going to show you on my cell phone, right? It's me really speaking Hindi. Like it's my... I have a different type, my synapses and my tone and the inflection of my voice and my animation. They got it captures me 1,000%. I have Brazilian friends that said, bro, that's you talking Portuguese. It's hysterical.
Sure sounds smooth.
I'm excited that I got the Brazilian crowd.
They're good. No, but the truth. Listen, truth is truth. I talk about humanity constantly. Some of the other guests I'm going to have on, this weekend. It like humanity. So when you're real, when you're authentic, we feel that. You feel the energy. Right. You feel the vibration. Right. Like we got the vibration.
I felt that when
going.
I met you.
Yeah, it's a vibration. Yeah, because it's real, and in a world that has
you're the real deal, bro.
Some people have become
10,000 spine surgeries.
We're not talking. Here we go.
In 20 years, 10,000 spine surgeries. What?
I mean, it's just whatever. It's just you learn your craft, you keep doing it, you get good at it, you just keep going. It's just doable.
10,000 spine surgeries. He's 52 years old. It's staggering to think that. Mad respect for you, bro.
No, I appreciate but
mad respect. I don't know. You're a lunatic.
But
I don't know how you're wired. Like an alien. I mean, I'm not joking. It's like you're from another planet.
But you know what people don't understand. People have asked me this before, right? Obviously, I talk to a ridiculous amount of doctors.
You talk to everybody, bro.
I talk to everybody, but now they come to me. It's different. They're like, oh, why do you like this?
I get it.
Why do you go see? Why are you such a Goggins fan? Why are you this? They don't understand. I'm like, because it's just about truth, humanity, and just like people being raw. We'll get to raw media, when we get to kind of to the end. But it's just about being your authentic self. And so I want people to be attracted to people that are authentic and can really teach them. And my folks, right, the docs and the healthcare providers, they don't go outside of their comfort zone. a lot of times when I say, "Oh, hey," I'll just tell them guys I've said, Tony Robbins, they don't know this stuff. They're just too busy in the silos, and so they don't have these people to inspire them and get them out of the stuff, and they feel trapped. And again, it's a huge passion for me, and that's a whole other thing, and that's why we're launching this mastermind for those people to get out of the rat race. They're just, why get all the degrees and do that if you're still on the same hamster wheel as everybody else? Why are you doing? Yes, help people, create new drugs, save the world, but don't be a prisoner to the system. And and you've been in the system and you know the system, and that's why
I know the
they should be
highs
listening.
and the lows like nobody.
System. All right, so
imagine I'm in Forbes, $350 million net worth, magnificent wife, if she ever shows up, Kelly, and beautiful children, 4 homes, right?
Yeah, and then you're
a private jet. I've had a yacht. I've had every toy you can think of. And then I'm living in a 66 square foot cell with 2 really fit black guys that have been combined. They've been in jail. They came from the pen. My first cellies, dear friends of mine.
Friends of yours? I was going to ask you if you're still friends with them.
We're tremendous friends right now. Mike Brown, a shout out, Henry, love you guys. And this old white guy walks in the cell, and 66 square foot. They've been locked up combined 23 years. And they put me in this cell first day, and the guys look at me, open the door. I said, guys, see, I'm showing them. I'm nervous as hell. And they're big, fit guys. And I'm like, you see, it shows I've been assigned to this. And they're looking at me with disgust on their face. And they say, all right, put your papers on the desk, put your shit down, and go take a walk. And I said, excuse me? They're looking at me like I'm an idiot. Put the paperwork on the desk. Put your shit down and go take a walk. Like, I'm thinking, I got to punch this guy? Just like out of a movie. You punch the guy in the face, right? I'm in prison for 12 minutes.
Yeah.
And I say, I better just, let me just take, I don't know the way it works. So I said, okay. So I walk out of the cell. I walk 2 feet, and a giant arm comes around my neck with a forearm the size big as my thigh. And he goes, bro, well, we're so sorry, bro. We're so sorry. And there's 2 guys with him, white guys, tatted up. And he says, we don't mix race here, bro. We fucked up, but we're going to get you out of that cell hopefully by tonight. We stick together, all these different things. He's got his arm around me. He's got a giant forearm, and I'm looking down his forearm, and it's a big SWAT sticker on it, the Nazi symbol, right? I'm a Jewish guy, and I'm not judgmental, but I'm thinking I'm going to go back in with the black kids. And I'm looking at this.
You weren't sure that Aryan Nation was quite.
I'm looking at that fucking arm of his.
Place for you?
And I say, all right, listen, I really appreciate it. I just got here. I'm just trying to get my bearings. They told me to take a walk. He said, yeah, they're looking at your paperwork. Now, when they say that, they look at each other. They have a combined IQ of about 3. And they look at each other, and they look at me. Now they're thinking maybe the black guys know something about me that they don't. It's in my paperwork. I'll explain to you now. So I walk around the unit. I see basically this it's a room with a bunch of chairs, a bunch of little TVs, locked up in cages and nothing else. I go back in, and all of a sudden, like, Ross, welcome. You're cool to bunk here with us. We're sorry. This guy, Henry, he takes all my bags. He starts making my bed. I've never seen a guy make a bed like this. Remember, he's been locked up like 14 years. The other guy, 9 years. Mike Brown. Mike Downtown Brown from Philly, my brother. I said, if you guys don't mind, they're unpacking my shit for me. I'm like, I never had service like this in a 5-star hotel. There's a toilet bowl right in the middle. 60, smaller than this room, 3 guys living in a 3-tier bunk bed. And I have the lower bunk. I said, if you don't mind me asking, so what's this all about? They said, bro, listen, when an older white guy checks into federal prison today, 90% of the time, he's a rat or a chomo. And we looked at your paperwork. I said, listen, fellas, I'm not a rat, and I get that. What's a chomo? And I've told this story, and no one knows except people that know. A child molester. And we come from the pen. We don't bunk down with child molesters, who are rats, by the way. And I said, you know what? I wouldn't either. You got to draw a line somewhere. And this particular prison is what you call a PC. There's only 6 of them in the United States. It's called a protective custody prison. This is where they put people that they don't want to get killed. So you take a chomo, a pedophile, and you put him in a regular prison, he's dead meat, literally. And they'll torture him, they'll kill him, they'll extort him, rape him, and all that. And they do all that stuff in this prison too. But they
Just at a different.
no,
just
they
at a
can't do it openly. They in a real prison.
Yeah.
That's the child molester is not allowed to sit in the TV room. Is not allowed to walk on the compound, and they get him anyway. But I saw gang rape, extortion, every single thing you could think of.
How long did it take you before you kind of were just able to get any sleep at night? Because going
Never. And I was inside a total of 7.5 years, and I was in roughly almost 2 years in home confinement. I did a total of 112 months, 9 years, 4 months. They let me out for COVID for 8 months, and they brought me back in wrongfully. I mean, the system is so fucked up; it's crazy. You know,
so you always had to watch your back the whole time.
Well,
no
it's
matter
not
what.
watch
Do
your
you
back.
Get, or do you get? I mean, do you get comfortable? You get comfortable in prison? Is it like Goodfellas, where they're making the sauce?
Well, yeah, we had all that. Believe me, I was very prison wealthy. I had every single thing you could think of, every benefit, and but you're surrounded by predators, 24/7, and I'm not just talking the inmates, the cops. There's a lot of evil cops.
I think people know this. They watch. I think people
it's
watch
listen
watch
to
TV.
me.
No, I'm sure it's way worse
It's
than
much
you can
worse than you can imagine. My 3rd day in prison, they locked everybody down. The head of the food, I forget what they call him. The guy ran the food department. You know, he was raping some of the guys in there.
It's nuts.
So if they know you're a homosexual, they feel they have the right to just have sex with you. You're giving me a blowjob, I'm fucking you in the ass. I mean, as much as we want. So that's why a lot of people who go to prison that they're gay, they have to hide it because they were immediately assaulted. I mean, when I tell you immediately. And this is in a protective custody prison.
Did they keep the pedophile separate?
Well, no. But what they did was there was a unit, and every prison that's a PC, there's a unit specifically where they put people that are living under threat. So at one point, really my 2nd or 3rd day in prison, I'm with Mike and Henry. I'm eating with them, so we're mixing race. I'm going to chow with them. Mike was these guys were very respected on the compound. Now, Mike was Jamaican, and his family's from Jamaica. I don't want to say
man,
more.
you're unifying the races in prison. This is a whole other.
I don't want to say more than
another
that.
movie, man.
I don't want to say
This is
more
great.
than that, except that, you know, when Mike said that I'm not to be touched, I was never touched the whole time.
The whole time.
Not even approached.
Holy.
And I watched the most terrible things happen to people. His family is very influential.
So nobody might because
The
they knew
Jamaicans
if they met,
don't play. I'm just going to say it like that. They do not play. If you've seen some movies, you understand that. But you know, and after this, here's one of the funniest lines. So after they say to me, I could bunk with them, and they're unpacking my shit, Henry goes, you know, you stole $140 million without a gun, and you only got 12 years? Bro, you got to teach us.
Yes.
I got 20 years for 12 grand and a gun. You did without a gun, and you got 140 million. You got to teach me. So my 2nd day in prison, I sat in the unit during TV time, which is not really the shittiest little teeny TVs you ever saw, the shit cable. And I started teaching guys business. And it started out me and these 2 guys. And then a couple of guys came up and said, what are you guys doing? I said, Ross is teaching us some business. A couple of guys said, if I would have known you out there, I'd be a billionaire. And that's probably true. Some of these guys had real drug business. I mean, serious businesses. They didn't always get caught for what, you know, they were doing. I mean, there were murderers. Like these guys just got caught with a brick of coke, you know, a kilo or 2. They had it in their car. They just got paid. They killed somebody, and they got busted.
Casual.
They got busted for that.
Killed
They
a
got
couple
15,
people.
20 years. You know, they made a plea. Maybe they got 10, 12 years, but they were hitmen. You know, I had bunkies that were serial killers.
I mean, you were around some serious.
Well, they put me in with a serial killer, the two guys that had the death penalty.
And I'm sure
in a
before
one
you went
room
in,
with me and one other guy.
I'm sure you never met people like that before. Even in that whole world, like in the whole Wall Street world, people aren't they're not serial killers and hit people.
I never had
maybe some pedophiles. I'm sure there were some pedophiles in
plenty.
there.
It's all coming. I didn't know how common it was.
Other...
Believe it or not, I didn't know. When I was growing up, nobody was gay. Yeah. Nobody.
Well, gay and gay is very different than pedophilia.
But what I'm saying is, it was they call it being in the closet.
Oh yeah.
In my high school, there was no gay people. Now it turns out 30, 40 years later, there's the third of them were gay, but that they didn't come out like. So it used to be you had it wasn't acceptable.
Yeah.
You understand? You couldn't be in the military. You got kicked out of college if you were gay. Sodomy is still illegal in like 13 states right now.
Which is pretty ridiculous.
I mean, it is crazy, but I'm just saying, think about how how things have changed. But I'm just saying prison is its own set of rules and customs, and that's a whole show.
What'd you learn? The top 3 things you learned from prison, just real quick. Like, what were the things? Because obviously, like,
I'll tell you something. I want to share this. It's very important for this podcast.
This is great. This is critical.
But this is a business podcast, as we talked about.
Right.
But this is about life. Here's what I learned. The single most important thing that you can do is be able to communicate orally and physically. So let me tell you let me tell you. In prison, if you can't communicate, they're on you. The predators are on you. They view you, if you can't make friends, buddy up. Yep. If you can't, when you speak, you're not animated. I was feared because I spoke well. When there was an issue going on in the prison, they would come to me and say, listen, could you speak to the one? Could you speak to the AW? Could you speak to the captain? And they would ask me to communicate. The ability to communicate and communicate effectively allowed me quickly to move. You have to learn how to move in prison. They say, I had guys come up to me and say, they all watch. There's a lot the predators sit back and watch. They watch. And they said, I like the way you move. I didn't even know what the fuck they were talking about. I'm not even joking. I didn't know what they were talking about. But and
that's true for all all of life. Communication,
everywhere in life. I'm urging the audience.
Superpower.
People come to me all the time and say, Ross, what's the most important thing I can do? Is to learn how to communicate effectively. You see how I'm raising the volume of my voice. I'm speaking to you now in a different way. I'm trying to sell you. I'm trying to tell you how important it is for you to communicate.
Correct.
Whether you want to make money, whether you want to make love, whether you want to make friends, whether you want to survive. It's all about an ability to communicate effectively.
Yes.
And that's what saved my life in prison and what's allowed me to succeed in business and in romance and all these different things that I feel like I've been, even as a drug addict, I was a great communicator. I was able to get my shit from people, even when,
teaching people how to communicate. I sit in these boardrooms. Some people get to pretty high levels. They cannot communicate. Right. I don't even know, they speak for 20 minutes, but I don't know even what the ask is. I don't know what they're asking. So then I stop and I say, can I just pause you for a second? What is it that you need? Right. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to achieve? They can't even communicate that.
I get it.
And then that's definitely a very limiting factor in business. You got to be able to communicate what you want, but you also have to know what you want.
Well, that's a whole other thing.
Did you figure out what you wanted when you were in prison?
I wanted to get through it.
Other than
I just, here's the mindset when you have in prison. You wake up and you every day, and as that little voice in your head is your consciousness, and you're like, oh fuck, I'm in prison. It took me about 2 years before I even had prison dreams. I had my first prison dream the other day. Since I'm out of prison, I dreamt I was actually in prison again.
Oh shit!
My first prison. These are things that guys talk about that are, all in.
It's the burning fire when you're in the burning fire, but you got to pee. Like that prison, you get stuck in these dreams.
So we have mail call, right? And everybody gathers around. All the inmates come around like we're friggin' little kids on Christmas Day, and the cops, they know they got you for a minute, and some of them are just bad, and a lot of them are just. Who grows up as a little kid and says, I want to be like a cop in a male prison? The answer is nobody. I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a cop. I want to be a Marine. I want to be a spine surgeon. I mean, real stuff. Who wants to work in a prison? This is the kind of job you take.
Corrections.
When you have nothing else to do. The BOP, and this is factual, is the poorest run agency that offers the poorest amount of salary and benefits and the poorest amount of advancement. It's considered the worst agency of our federal government, the Bureau of Prisons. So you guys all know.
What do those guys make? I have no idea. Like today, like
they make like $5,000 a month. They make $60,000, but they all jacking up because nobody wants to work there.
It's a tough life, man.
But they're short, so everybody's working overtime. Some of these guys are making $130,000, $140,000, $150,000 a year, and then a lot of them start bringing in cell phones and start bringing in drugs. A pack of cigarettes, one pack of cigarettes goes for like $2,000 because they take a cigarette, they break off the filter, right? Then they take what's left of the cigarette and they make it into 2 or 3. They break it in 3 pieces. It's a little thing. And then they charge $10 or $20 for each thing.
Who's paying the prisoners?
Prisoners, yeah.
Where are they getting the money from? The money they get from like the work that you do, the peanuts.
A lot of people see you're allowed commissary. So you were maxed out at $360 a month. So I got the maximum $360. But what people do is you're a guy, you have cell phones. I don't want to own a cell phone because I got to handle it. I'm going to rent a cell phone for you for an hour. I pay lookouts, and then you tell me that your wife or your girlfriend, we do a cash app. I call my girl on the cell phone. I say, Steph, send this guy $100. Bing, bang, boom, cash app or Venmo, and that's how everything happens today in prison. Now they have drones dropping shit in. You don't even need the cops to sneak things in.
I know. I watch the Mayor of Kingstown.
I love that.
That is just...
Is that great?
It is. Well, that's one of the best series.
That's very real.
I know.
That's legit. But we were talking about communication before, and I was thinking about a lot of it. And, oral communication is the most important. But in prison, physical communication is very important. The way you stand, the way you carry yourself. You're either a predator or you're a prey. I just want you're either bully or you're bullied. This is it. There's no middle ground.
But isn't this the truth in life?
It is, but in prison,
it's a little bit,
everything is more magnified.
Right,
correct.
Magnified.
Like you want to talk about bad guys in life? All right, there's different level of bad guys. This guy's a liar. This guy's a cheat. This guy's unreliable. This guy steals shit from your house if you're not looking. In prison, bad guys. You got murderers. You got rapists. You got the worst of the worst. It's really... both sides. So when you have to know how to handle yourself, you have to know how to sit, how to stand. They literally say how to move. Guys say, "I like the way you move." Now it's just that I'm from Wall Street. I am an alpha male. I didn't have to rehearse or practice the way I speak. All these different things. I am rehearsed, practiced, refined, and I'm just me.
I mean, you've been doing that since you were selling stuff as a teenager,
correct.
Right? You're getting tickets booked for off nights.
I've always been this sort of guy, but I've become much more practiced through life's circumstances. Like I'm surviving, right? So in prison, it's very, very important. But I was thinking just when I was out there, when you come into a place, they say you walk into a place like you own it. I want you, when I come into a place, I want you to know that. When I first came in, nobody was here, and I met that guy, Cole. I shook his hand. I got the Wi-Fi. I came back here. I spoke to Nick. Right, Nick? Is that true? And I said, Nick, how do you spell that? And it was Rafik. It's Q at the end, right? And this guy here, Alex, was unavailable. But I let him know I was trying to say hello. I stood in front of him. But he acted like he's too busy, and he was doing these different things. And he had a guy.
He's getting ready for this show.
Whatever. But he had this sort of standoffish posture. But I let him know when I walked in. I was standing right in front of him. I tried, right? So I let you know when I moved into a room. When I saw Kelly, I hugged her. When I saw Lorena, I hugged her. I am here. This is Ross Mandell.
You're present.
But I want you to know it too, okay? And I urge people to start like that in life. If you're an important person and you walk in a room, people know it. So you might be the only person that knows you're important. But act like it. Act like it. So this is stuff that I teach, right? I coach.
This is business 101.
It's
this
not
is
just
before the
business. This is
textbook.
even more than
This is
business.
life 101.
Right,
It's
right.
life
So this
101.
is
When
so-
people come in slouched,
Right.
hi,
Right.
how you doing? That's not inspired. It's like, oh, let's
Right. I
get
walk
a deal
into a
with
place,
this guy.
everybody's like, "Who's that guy?" Like they think I'm somebody. They think I'm
Same
somebody.
thing with a surgeon, right?
Oh,
you want to
it's-
walk in and the surgeon, oh,
Right.
okay, yeah,
No,
we're
no.
going to do some surgery. Yeah, right.
No,
You're thinking
bro.
like,
No, no.
you want somebody like,
you
I've
fucking
done
went
this.
to medical
Let's
school.
go.
You
This
borrowed
is,
hundreds of thousands of dollars. You were fucking educated. If I was a surgeon, everybody watch out. Watch out. I'll cut you up.
you listen to
I'll
that?
slice you up.
No, not that part, but I'm saying the other part.
You're a king.
Because
To me, you're a king.
No, but it's just
You
not
got
that.
you check into a hotel. You write doctor.
Do you see what they've done to doctors
I-
in this
I-
in this system?
I
They look
can't-
like they
it's
look
pathetic.
like they look like they lost their enthusiasm about 10 years ago.
It's pathetic.
They're looking at their shoes. They're afraid of administration. They're afraid to say something outside
You've allowed
the
it to
box.
happen to yourself.
It's literally the worst
allowed
thing
it
that
to
I've ever
happen
seen.
to
It makes me.
Right.
I'm actually. When I see that kind of behavior, it's mad. But you know what? We went off the rails because we want to know what happened when you get that letter.
So
Everybody's
now-
surrounding you. You get
So
your
now-
letter.
Well, here's the thing. So when they call mail call, the cops posture themselves like they're fucking, king for the day. Like they're giving out the fucking mail. This is, but when you're in prison for, I'm not there for life. I'm a short stay kind of 12 years short stay, right?
I wouldn't call that a hotel stay.
Right. But I'm just saying. I mean, so the cop's like, he's got his posture like he's important. He's giving out fucking mail. Go fuck yourself. But, you got to play the game. But, all the guys are all postured. There were guys that are always in the front. There are guys that are always in the back. I'd sort of like be, I never wanted to stand out. I didn't want to, at that point in time, I didn't really care. I usually got mail because I had newspapers coming in and magazines and people wrote me letters and postcards and all the different things. But, you see the faces when you go to mail call and guys walk away and there's no mail. This dejected feeling. Even I would feel it. But one day I get some mail and there's a letter, and it's the return thing is Chicago, Illinois. I used to date a couple of girls in Chicago. That was like 1,000 years ago. All right, and I open it up, and it's like congratulations, like you won something. And it said that my case was deemed the most important federal case in the United States. I'm like, what? And we're producing a show about you, your life, and your case, and we're inviting you to participate, right? Now, if you've ever seen American Greed, you see the guys that choose to participate, they make you look like a fucking idiot. And they're not allowed to come into the prison, just so you know. Like the writer,
Which is why you did everything, all the phone
right,
calls.
The writer
Everything's on
from,
phone.
the writer from Forbes wrote several stories about me while I was in prison. He tried to come see me a few times. His name is Walter Pavlo. Shout out, Walt. And they wouldn't let him in. Now, just so you guys know, they allowed Walter in pretty much every federal prison in this country. But to come see me, they said no, because they deemed me as a threat. Because I went on national TV and I called the judge a rubber stamp and I told the FBI guy to fuck himself and all these different things. They really punished me for that. And there was something in my jacket, some code that said, fuck this
But that's
guy.
why I asked you.
Oh, no, they
like
fucked
when
with me.
No, well, I mean, you
Right.
were.
I thought they were going to kill me one
When you were taunting the guys before you went in.
Right,
Mean,
well, I
they
challenged
showed
them.
one of the.
I challenged
there's
them.
a pretty funny video that they show on your episode where you're like working out and
Right.
you're like, it's interesting.
The guys in prison really love that shit.
I'm sure you got all kinds of street cred. You came with a lot of street cred, but anyway, then they.
But I
So
challenged.
anyway,
but
you get
a
this
lot of
letter
guys
and-
respected me for all that. But
So you were pretty excited.
so I get this letter. No, I'm like, what the fuck? American Greed. I don't want to. I'm not thinking about me. It was torture for my wife and children. They had to get off social media because of the American Greed. They had to get off social media. People are brutal. And then my kids are in school. My kids are 14 and 11, two girls. And I was a big player in Boca Raton. I was very rich. We were very active in the community. Our house was featured in Boca Magazine, literally on the front page. During Christmas and Halloweens and all that kind of, we would pay thousands to have it decorated and all that kind of stuff. My wife loved all that stuff, and I let her enjoy it. And we get this letter, and I'm like, oh. So I had my lawyer call and see if we could stop it. Forget it. And I said, well, let me at least speak my mind. He says, absolutely not, because whatever you say, they're going to not allow you to edit it. They're going to use it against you. I said, okay. He goes, if you give me permission, I'll let you go on. And he goes on and he says some things that I felt were not bad. You know what I mean? But I'll never forget my cellie. A lot of guys in prison. In prison, you consider this is a status thing. Like when you go to a compound, or a new guy, they say, we got two guys that were on American Greed. It's like a big status thing. Because now everybody in the unit goes and calls their wives and calls their mothers and calls their girlfriends. Like, you're not going to believe this, babe. This guy, Ross Mandell, they're putting him on American Greed. It's like...
That's like the pinnacle.
Well, it's like a status
in a way.
criminal.
Yes.
It's a big-time criminal.
Of course
Bernie Madoff, Ross Mandell, Jordan Belfort, you got to be kidding me. And I'll never forget when... So I get I'm sitting watching TV one night, like on a Saturday night, I'll never forget, and my name comes over the loudspeaker. Ross Mandell, come to the lieutenant's office now. And anytime you get called to the lieutenant's office is a bad thing. Oftentimes you go to the lieutenant's office and no one ever sees you again. Because they take you, they put you in the shoe, which is, the hole, the box, and you sort of disappear from the compound. So I go in, and the lieutenant says, we just got a call from Washington. You're going to be on American Greed, and your episode is airing this Friday, and we want to put you in isolation. I said, what do you mean? So we want to put you in the shoe. I said, I do something wrong? They said, no, but this is for your protection. I said, what do you mean? They said, well, we had a guy on American Greed who was a doctor, cancer doctor, and he committed, fraudulent practices. And one of the inmates, his mom died from cancer and got inappropriate care.
Wasn't that the guy that was watering down all the cancer meds?
I was in with that guy.
And pretty much
there was a couple of guys. Dr. Mike Rosner, he was doing bad things.
If you're doing that stuff, you should be.
And they went into his cell.
They should throw away the key.
5 minutes after the American Greed episode, 2-3 guys went into his cell and beat him to near death. They thought they killed him. He ended up living.
But he did that to people.
Well, I'm not arguing. But and then
I'm not condoning their behavior, but he literally did. He
deserved it.
How many you get?
He deserved it. Well, let me tell you what they said to me. The lieutenant said, "Listen, Mandell." He goes, "A couple of guys here might have lost their money in the stock market to a bad broker. We know you're a good guy." He said, "We know you're a good guy, but a couple of guys might take it personal if they lost money in the stock market. They got cheated." He goes, "You think guys ever get cheated?" I said, "Everybody gets cheated. That's what brokers do." I said, "But I didn't do anything wrong." I said, no, we would like you to check into the shoe for your own protection. I said, well, I don't want to go. He says, all right, well, you're going to have to sign a form. And I never heard that in my whole stay in the system, my whole experience from 2006 when the feds came in and raided my brokerage firm, all the way till today. So I'm still on probation, finishing up my probation. I never, ever had this kind of come on, we want you to go to the hole. I said, I didn't do anything wrong. I don't have to. I signed a paper that said, at the risk of my life, the United States government has warned me and given me multiple options to go to the shoe. And this was like, I got to say, the day before the American Greed came on, they called me back. And they said, Ross Mandell, come to the lieutenant's office. And they said, we were asking you one more time, and we want you to sign this form, and we want you to acknowledge that you have refused for your own protection what we're offering you. They all felt like they were going to be liable because they already knew I had great lawyers and I'm suing everybody. And even I've sued the SEC, I sued everybody. DOJ, I sued the BOP. I had lawsuits going on the whole time I was in prison, for real. And they punished me for it. But I said no. And I'll never forget, all of a sudden, the biggest white guy in the prison, his name was Joe. Joe was the president of one of the big bike gangs. I forget what they're called, but they're like an international group. Not Hell's Angels, but one of the big, the roughest bike gang. Joe was about 6'5", 280. Everywhere you touched him, it was like touching a brick wall.
Yeah, lineman.
And he was ahead of like the white guys. They called them cars in prison. So, but he was, an Italian. And in the real world, he was the son-in-law of one of the big capos of one of the major families in this country, a real mafia guy. And Big Joe said, the TV, where you sit in the TV room is big. You have to work to get a good spot where you have to pay. It's a very prestigious thing. Eventually, I always had the best spot in all these different
The mayor of the.
I made it happen.
Speaking of the mayor,
Right. But let me tell you what happened. So they set up my green, it's like a green plastic lawn chair. That's where you sit. And they put me right in front of the main TV. There's 5 TVs. And for that American Greed, every one of the TVs and every one of the units, including all the warden and the AW, everybody was tuned to American Greed because it was, they had me. It was prestigious for them. Like, I'm a prison celebrity. And Big Joe said, put my chair right in the front.
Big Joe.
Right. And then he sat right behind me. And I kept thinking, I felt first I was very pleased. And then some guys made like homemade ice cream and they give me a sandwich. They're feeding me and they bring in, everyone had booze and drinks. And I'm sitting there and I realized this guy, the biggest guy in unit's right behind me. And this American Greed's come on. They could kill me. If there's one negative thing up there coming on that screen, I'm a dead man. I have no protection. I'm sitting there, and I can't run. I'm penned in there. I don't know what they're gonna do. You've seen the American Greed. It turns out it wasn't bad at all. In fact, some people feel like it made me look like a big shot, and I didn't do anything wrong. Well, where's the crime? And they loved it. And these guys in prison are very crafty. They had this illegal chip they smuggled in. And they taped it. They recorded it. And then they would play it over and over again, depending on which cops were on duty. But at this point, they came to me like 3 days later and said, Ross, we have your American Greed. We're going to show it because X, Y, Z. This cop is going to be on duty. He doesn't give a shit. A lot of these cops are on the take, and some of them just don't give a shit. And they said, we want to watch your American Greed episode. Is it okay? Out of respect, they came to me and asked me. And I said, only if I can watch it with you. And so I would watch it with them, and I would tell them what part is true, what part is kind of true.
You're narrating
I'm
it
narrating.
The real narrator, not that guy, not the American
bullshit,
Greed.
and what really happened. And they loved it. They fucking loved it. And it was like inside, it's like a badge of honor. My poor wife and kids had to get off Twitter and get off a lot of the social media sites because they were getting destroyed. Nasty people saying you're living the big life, and meanwhile your husband stole and cheated and lied, all these different things, which I did not do. But but in prison, anywhere I went, I was known as like an American Greed guy because that's like hype.
I think I've watched every.
Right.
There's something about. I mean, it's interesting because obviously. 99% of people, well, not 99%. Let's say 90% of people don't want to commit any type of criminal behavior, but they're attracted to those people because they live.
Correct.
Like they live, and they do horrible things, and the vast majority of people, as you've already said, deserve to be. I mean, they deserve to be there.
Most of them.
Those doctors, those cancer doctors. I don't think there's not enough lifetimes for them to be in there, as far as I'm concerned. Some of the pedophilia, not enough life. There's not enough lifetimes.
I agree with all that.
I need more. I'm like, could we sentence them to 300 years and keep them alive somehow? It's just not. It's not long enough. But yet, people are attracted to people that live.
They live vicariously through you.
Yeah, and I've seen so many. I mean, I've seen like your just quotes. You're like, like in just a few years, it felt like you lived like decades and decades and decades in this short period of time. You lived, and I'm sure there's things that you wish that had gone a different way. I'm sure you wish you took the deal.
Wish I didn't do.
You probably should have taken the
100%.
deal. I'm not here to counsel. I don't know anything about that.
100%.
But you should have taken the deal, and probably some of that is our own ego. And I don't say anything. I don't know what I would have done. We don't know. A lot of people like on social media, they want to troll.
Right.
They're not in that position. So they like, how do you know what you want to do? I say, like this dad. Well, what would you? They're like, well, I would have done this. Well, really?
Really? You haven't done that? You haven't left your basement?
Exactly. You have because you read it in a book. Now you know how everyone, because you read self-help books. All right. So the prison thing, I mean, it's fascinating. That's a whole entire show, and I think like the whole incarceration system is something that people are trying to bring to the limelight because it's crazy what goes on there. And I encourage everybody to, if you haven't watched Mayor of Kingstown, this is the real deal. I mean, if you don't like dark stuff, don't watch it. But if you want to see how things work around the prison system, the corruption level on every single level, and what you need to do to survive. I mean, it ends.
It's the most real thing I've seen
real.
regarding how prisons and how the systems are politically influenced.
And I typically don't like to watch a lot of those prison shows, but that one is real. I mean, obviously, you know, Renner, and I mean, it's a phenomenal. I mean, the cast is
amazing.
Like
it's so well
unbelievable.
Everything.
You know, you got Bunny, and you get
I've
all
watched every episode.
It's amazing.
I love it.
It ends. I mean, it's rough. The way it ends,
it's very rough.
It's rough. All right, so
I just want to say one last thing about prison. Just my final word. A lot of people ask me, Ross, you've been to prison now. I mean, a guy like you knew the greatest heights. Tell us one thing. What's this one thing, you know, you have to say, having been in prison 7.5 years, real federal, you've done Fed time, which is like considered.
This isn't like,
This is not like county jail or state. When I walked out of there, and I came and I saw my family. It's only been since January of 2 years ago, right? And 24. I said, thank God there were prisons. That's the one thing I want to tell everybody. Thank God there were prisons. I have a family. I have friends. There's a lot of bad dudes.
Really bad.
And there's bad dudes.
And women. There's plenty of
But there's some really bad dudes,
The dudes tend to be a lot worse.
And let me just tell you that the world doesn't really know about it. So a lot of these bad dudes, they're rapists, they're killers.
They're bad.
They're terrorists. But they didn't get caught for that. They got caught. A lot of these guys just get caught with drugs or an illegal gun, right? They get caught with an illegal gun, or they have a brick of cocaine, and they get caught. And they make a plea deal, and nobody knows that they've really killed 20 people or 15 people, or that they're rapists. But when you're in prison, and I'm on American Greed, people would come to my cell, and guys would brag to me. Sometimes I'd be walking, he would grab me, he's like, Mandell, come here, I want to talk to you. And I'm like, but I got to do that. Get over here. Mr. Man, like the guy's 6'3", 215 pounds. He's like steel. He's already been locked up 15 years. He works out every day. You can't argue with him. All right, what do you want to talk about? And then he would just start talking and telling me about some things that I didn't want to know. About crimes.
That they have committed.
They commit and never got caught like it's a thing. A lot of guys, they brag about that. And they want to talk to me. They call me the OG because I'm like, older or old man, or Don. They call me all these names, And, I'm sitting there looking at this guy, and he's a stone cold murderer. He's a rapist. He's bragging to me. And I'm thinking, I got a wife and daughters. Thank God they locked this guy up. I'm terrified that this guy, he goes, I want to call you when I get out. I'm like, yeah, call me.
I mean, those guys, their brains are, again, I'm not people like, oh, now Sinicropi's a forensic psychologist. He knows everything. But seriously, their brains are broken and they need to be in prison because
Thank God they're a prison.
Last question I'll ask you about prison because I want to talk about business and what you're doing now. I mean, that's real important.
100%.
But with prison, you're around all these bad people. Now, you watch them. You taught them, right? You taught classes in prison. You taught business classes. You had horrible people in your classrom's. Horrible.
I've had the worst.
Just
of the
like,
worst.
look, but
there's a lot of good people in prison.
I've had plenty of patients that have done some crazy, crazy stuff.
Sure.
And I did feel, I felt bad. Who I did feel bad for. I don't condone any kind of criminal stuff. But I felt bad for some of those realtors. I had a bunch of realtors during the financial crisis. Think about it. I started my career in 06.
Oh, wow.
And the crisis happened in 08. And not a lot, but I had, for whatever reason, a bunch of these people were my patients early on, and they went to prison.
They got killed.
And they're the ones that got brought into prison. Meanwhile, all the big dogs, nothing. If you look at how many people went to jail for the fight, it was like one. There's a movie, like a movie about
none.
There's like one guy that's a little bit bigger.
Fail, nothing happened.
All of those guys, they didn't do anything. But meanwhile, they're running the biggest criminal. I don't want to. I don't want to.
Billions of dollars from the.
There's so many institutions that are. But that's been like that since Rome.
Since the beginning of time.
Any empire, everything. Right. There's corruption, left and right. So, but anyway, my last question about prison is how many of those people are rehabable? That's always the question. Like, you go to prison. Is there a level? Some guys they're just. It's not like they're too far.
There's a lot of really.
Can everybody get? I mean, because people. I feel like most people are good inside. The vast majority. I
agree.
Obviously, if you're a sociopath, it doesn't matter. Right? There's something. Your brain's different. But for other people, most people have some goodness in them. Do you feel like the prison system is actually built to rehab people?
Let me tell you what the real issue is. We're talking about business. The prison system in the United States, the federal system, there's 122 federal prisons, so you guys know. It's a business. The United States government pays $8 billion a year. It feeds, it houses, it clothes hundreds of thousands of people. It's a business. The system has become a business. That's why they have to arrest certain people, and they have to try certain people, and they have to make these plea deals, because it's a business. It's a thriving business. Like Trump wanted to upset the apple cart, believe it or not. You know, he passed, this guy Obama, this black president, he's going to do all these things. He did zero for people in prison. And the first people to tell you are the prisoners. And the only guy that ever did a thing to help fix the system is Donald Trump. I got out of prison early because of Donald Trump. So many people. He took this woman, Susan Johnson, whatever her name is, wrongly convicted, a black woman from like Chicago, and put her in charge of a whole thing. Right now, the head of the BLP, the director, is a former prisoner. Is a felon.
I did not know that.
No, and he passed what they call the First Step Act. He's trying to correct this agency, which is so fucking broken. And he passed the law on the last day of his last term. They got it through Congress. They got it through.
I didn't know that.
And it's taken the feds, the system, 6.5 years, and they still haven't instituted half the stuff. That's federal law, thanks to Donald Trump. But myself and thousands of inmates have gotten out and had our time reduced and our security levels reduced because of Trump. Nobody, not one other president in our lifetimes has done a thing, except Clinton and Biden passed the Crime Act in '94. And that's why we have a criminal system. And that's why there's 150,000 people. They're responsible, the Democrats, those two especially, Clinton and Biden. Their so-called war on drugs was, guy has a couple of bags of weed, black kid in the projects, a couple of bags of weed, life.
That's
30 years for weed. Still, they're still in.
There's a million.
They're still in. How many guys I met do 20, 30 years for weed? Then they would cry to me. They say, Ross, what should I do? You know, on the street corner where they were dealing weed right now is a dispensary, a federal dispensary. You get weed and you get a license. These guys are doing 30 years. I mean, you have no idea how corrupt.
I mean, honestly, the crime bill was.
That's what caused the black community to get locked up. The whole black community, 100,000 people.
It's devastating to that community, and people don't. It's
Clinton and Biden. And there's so much.
I try not to get into politics too much, but
everybody in prison knows that Trump is the only one that tried to fix this
the crime bill stuff,
and he's still trying to do it. They haven't stopped, but you know, there's so many problems he's dealing with. We got a million problems. You know,
no, but we need to make our again. I sound like now I'm like running for I'm not running for governor, not yet, but
you should be.
But that's a whole other thing. But I'm not running for governor. You
can't do worse than you. You got a real opportunity here.
But I'm not running for stuff. But I'm saying we definitely need to reform the prison system. There are people that are beyond reform. Like I said, there's a certain, and then I'll leave it up to the brilliant psychologists and psychiatrists to just be like, you can't. There's nothing that you can do. Even if you like, if some of these people you castrate them, and they're still going to do something, right? There's still a problem.
Right.
But anyway, that's not my area of expertise. But we need, for the people that are rehabable, we want them to come out and actually be rehabbed. If you're getting, I mean, like the stories you're telling. Okay, you have great stuff out there. You're reading you were reading like 4 books a week. Like you were doing great stuff in prison. I know, it's out there. People just Google
every single book. Let's talk about raw media. I want to talk about
let's talk about what are we doing? What are you doing now? What are you committed to now?
So I get out of prison, right? It reminds me of when I decided to get sober and I got out of rehab. I looked at the world with a different set of eyes, and I'm looking to see. What the fuck? When they discharged me, they asked me what my gender was. You're asking me what my gender was. Did something happen to me in prison? What's my gender? There's 8 choices.
You never
non-binary, I'm this. I don't even know what these things mean. I like the way it sounds, non-binary, but I still don't know what it means. What's my pronouns they're asking me? The world went fucking nuts. That shit crazy. It's on a federal form. They got to ask you these questions. What's your gender? I said, I've been a man my whole life. Did something happen to me? And they said, sorry, Mr. Man, we have to ask you this. We have meetings, and this is a federal. This is how crazy this Biden administration turned this world upside down. What are my pronouns? I don't even know what that means. Are you they, them, or he, she? Or
I would just say a quick thing on
Right.
that. I just a quick take on it, since we don't talk a lot. I think that people have been excluded, and it's a big problem. But then when that becomes the focus, right? You start focusing on things, but the same people that you are, including, are still trapped in a system that is ruining their life. And so that is a way, like, all this stuff, in my opinion, is very diversionary, so that people don't see
That's
that
what they're
the
doing.
institutions and everything else like that is basically just running their life and keeping them prisoners to this system. They're just being.
They want to distract you.
Yeah.
From what's really going on.
You're just in the pod, like in Neo. Neo was in the pod, right?
Right.
That's it. You're just in the pod. You're a battery. You're just a battery.
In Rome.
You're
when
just
Rome
a battery.
was starting to fall, when there
You're
was
just a
poverty
battery.
and sewage everywhere, they would put the games on in the arenas.
It's a distraction. It's all a distraction. It's a complete distraction.
That's what football is, and that's what all the sports is going on here. They want to distract you, entertain you.
They distract you with the food. They distract
From
you with things.
what they're doing.
Yeah, they just distract.
They're starting
It's a
wars so they can
distraction.
divert
That's a
billions of
whole-
dollars to their Swiss accounts. This is all going on every day.
It's been going on since the beginning, but it's way worse now with all the because they could just distract.
So now let me tell you what happens. I get out of prison, and all of a sudden, Stephanie hands me an iPhone and a computer. And I'm looking at the world, and I'm looking. Social media during the COVID lockdowns blew up. Why? Because you were locked down. Wrongfully and illegally, they controlled the whole population under the guise they're protecting you. The biggest scam in world history. The government put COVID on everybody, so you know. And this whole thing was a ploy. Forgetting that for a minute. All right, but I'm telling you what it is. It'll be revealed in about 5 or 10 years, but forget that for the moment. I looked at the world and I said, where are the opportunities? And I say, one thing is there's no such thing as a regulated business anymore in America. It's either overregulated or unregulated. I will never participate in a regulated business. There's no more opportunity. Unless you're an insider, if you're inside defense and they blow up a regulated business, then you're good. Otherwise, you're an outsider. Good luck. And I looked at podcasting, and I saw President Trump, Donald Trump, when he was trying to just, do his final lap, become the president again.
He went on podcasts.
He went on. He didn't go on 60 Minutes. He didn't go on. He went on Joe Rogan's podcast. He got 30 million downloads in 12 hours, and he won in a landslide. He won every swing state, et cetera. The only states he lost are the states where you don't need ID to vote. That's very interesting. But to make a long story short, I looked at this opportunity because, firstly, the opportunity has to be matched with my abilities, right? So if I was a quiet type and there's a great opportunity in podcasting, it might not match. You understand what I mean? It's not suitable for me. But because I'm expressive, I'm verbal, I'm good in front of the camera, I'm gonna podcast. I'm gonna get my life story out. It gives me a chance to change the narrative regarding my life. The government said one thing, American Greed said one thing, the DOJ, BOP, they have their own impression, right? But now I get a chance to challenge that openly, and there's no regulatory body. I don't have the SEC or the stock exchange. You can't say that. You can't do that. You can't charge that. And then I seen what happened to the world, and I know what's happened to me. I survived, right? I got through
You're a survivor.
I'm in pretty great shape considering what I've been through. Right? People are shocked. They're shocked. And I'm like, well, let me show you because I know you've got problems or you've been through some tough stuff. But if you look at your stuff and you look at if I put my stuff on this table and you put your stuff on the table, you'd grab your stuff so back you wouldn't believe it. You'd grab your stuff.
Forget it. I'm good.
I'm done. I'm
good.
Yeah, all right. Sorry, Ross. So the point I make is I have the ability now as an older guy with all this experience to help people. And that's my mindset because it's an easy thing I love teaching anyway. I taught since the third day of prison. I taught.
You're a teacher.
I taught ACE classes. You actually got time off your sentence if you took my classes. And I taught for 7.5 years, and every spot I've been at, I've mentored people in every spot I've been at, and a lot of people come to me and say, Ross, I got this situation. I want to buy this stock. I got this money. I don't know what to do. I got a business. I don't know how to this and that. And so I set up a structure. You go to rossmandell.com. That was the first thing I did when I got out. A bunch of guys that wanted to be in my world.
Yeah.
Set up this whole website, and we created a curriculum, a business curriculum called the Wealth Formula, and we created a mastermind program. And so but really the whole purpose of rossmandell.com was to pave the way for the next step in my plan. I'm a big planner.
Yeah, so before we get to that, though, I want people to know about rossmandell.com and the mastermind and the stuff you're doing. So what are you? So you say you're pretty general, but like, are there some? What's specific about that's different, other than speaking to different kind of audiences? Like,
Correct.
what does it teach? Like, what does it generally teach? What are you teaching business people to do, or people in life for life?
So unlike most of these coaching and mastermind programs that I've become familiar with, from the best to the best, the biggest to the biggest, the top of the top, 90% of them are all bullshit. There's no one size fits all.
Correct.
I meet somebody and I decide or determine if I'm interested in helping them. Now, when you came along, I'm in a much different place than I was 2 years ago. I'm willing to help people if I think that they're legitimately coachable and they're good people. I'm only accepting high-value people from day one. And I ask people to share with me their life story.
Which is better if it goes both ways, right? Because you know who people are, and if you can help them. Otherwise, a waste of both of your time.
Correct.
Right.
And I've turned away 5 or 10 times as many people as I've taken in. And initially, the podcast was for me to get my message out. But the truth is, I was invisible for over 10 years. And what I wanted to do was I want to meet people that I want to meet. And the people I want to meet, just like when I was a stockbroker, I sat and called rich people, right? Mm-hmm. Now, I set up a podcast. What's one thing that all pretty successful people have today? They all have some sort of product, service, and event, if they're successful,
right,
that they want to promote, right? Back in the day, before all this stuff, if you were on a movie or you were throwing an event, you had to get on national television. But today, people go what? They do a podcast circuit.
Yes.
They want to sell a book. They want to sell out, the Aspire Tour, and have people come to an event. So I created this podcast as a way to meet people that I want to meet. Just like I used to dial on the phone rich people who I wanted to be in business with, correct? And so the podcast just blew up. I'm in the top 30 on Apple right now. I've been in the top 10 for months. I was number 6 on self-improvement. I was number 8 in education. Right now, as we sit here, I think I'm 18 right now in all of Apple.
That's pretty
worldwide.
Good. There's millions of podcasts out there.
There's 4 million.
Yeah.
4 million.
Which is insane. I think everybody. I don't know. I don't know if there's anyone left that doesn't have a podcast.
Well, I'll tell you, there's some big things coming.
I'm crazy.
I just signed a deal in December, and I can't say anything about what's happening now. But I'm about to be. I've been picked up by. It's going to be a new streaming service in 190 million households in America. One of the biggest companies on earth, literally one of the 10 biggest on earth. Hold on, you don't know this.
Well, I'm just saying it sounds exciting.
They've committed $5 billion. They're going against Netflix and they're going against Google, and they are one of the 10 biggest companies on earth. And I'm one of the main players that's going to be featured coming very soon.
And you're right here with me.
You have no idea.
Right here with me.
I'm in a period right now. It's called the quiet period for 7 to 10 days. There's no advertising allowed on my show, but very, very soon, they just changed my whole platform. It's going to be I'm going to say, I can't mention the name. I signed 1 million pages.
Yeah,
but you're not going to believe what's coming.
This is the teaser.
You're not going to
bring it. We'll bring it to you.
You're not going to believe what's coming.
We're gonna.
I already signed the deal, and we're communicating on a daily basis, and they just moved my thing to a new platform. It's called Going Public with Ross Mandell. I'm on every platform. YouTube. It's the real Ross Mandell, and it's beyond exciting. So Raw Media was my idea because today everybody can have their own channel, their own network, just like your career, right?
Yep.
We didn't have this opportunity many years ago, and it's unregulated. I promise you, at the end of the Trump administration, whoever becomes the next president, they will find a way to regulate this. And you're either going to be inside the fence looking out or outside the fence looking in. And I'm going to be inside this fence. And along the way, I get to meet the people that I want to meet. And I've agreed to produce a movie. And it's called Blind Greed. It's based on a book written by Lawrence Scott Hartman. I believe you met Larry. And this company that's doing this streaming service approached me about representing this book. And they also are spending $1 billion a year to be in the media business, which they're not yet, but they started this initiative.
People have no idea how big they have no idea how big the. I mean,
right, but it's a public company. They've already announced their intention, but I can't say the name. But they're interested in taking Blind Greed and turning it into a series, a multi-year series.
And those always do well. I mean, those do. They knock
like
it
the
out
Mayor
the
of
park.
Kingstown.
Of course.
This is based on true crime, which is Larry's story.
Again.
And then my story following that.
Which is amazing.
And there's a meeting going on Wednesday in Tennessee. But we've already agreed. They approached me with this. And so we've agreed to the meeting, and we're ready to go with this whole distribution thing. And so Raw Media's idea was to use the podcast, use the mastermind to meet and hang out with people that I feel I want in my world, that I have a place for. I use it to bring people into my community because we're doing some very, very big things with our community. Having a media business, what are we doing? We're content creators, right? Because for the first time in history, we have 8 billion potential audience, and it's going to be, some kid is going to wake up in a few weeks, and he's going to turn on his phone, he's going to go to Instagram, and they're going to recommend Ross Mandell, and I'm going to be speaking to him in Hindi. Or Kannada, or Telugu. I mean, all these different, I'm going to show Tamil. I've never even heard of these things, these languages, but they're real. And I'm in Portuguese and Spanish. And so I give financial advice to educate people.
But
I do take private consultation. What I forgot about the market, most people will never, ever know. I spent 40 years of my life doing this every day, and I still continue to do that. I help people become rich. I help rich people become richer. I help people protect their assets. It's staggering to me how little people know. So a billionaire came in and bought the whole first round of Raw Media. So we sold out the whole first round. We're funded completely, and now we're opening up a second round of funding. And the idea is we have 7 revenue streams right now identified with money coming in. And we have very, very low costs, like unheard of. So I'm designing a company that Ross Mandell would look at and say, wow, I'm putting this on the stock market, right? Checking every box, structuring every detail to become a publicly traded media business.
Yeah, you're building a platform that can share ideas kind of open and honestly, unfiltered, which again, a lot of that started with the whole Joe Rogan movement, and it went from there, and it goes, and it's not, you say Joe Rogan, people start getting political. I'm like, wait a minute, he's been on, he has ideas on all sides.
He's already taken in $500 million.
Of course he does. It's huge.
But if he had a guy like me around, if he was a stock market guy, it would be worth $50 billion, not $500 million. Yeah. $50 billion.
What's a couple zeros?
A
couple zeros here, a couple zeros there. I think I'll be all right.
I'm the first Wall Street guy that's going to I'm going to introduce the virality of social media to the virality of the stock market. Never been done. We're well into it. Scott Clary, the man you're going to see tomorrow, he's got 2 million legit subscribers, a top 10 rated podcast in the world.
She can come back. Elizabeth, if she wants to say hi to us.
Bring her in.
Yeah.
Top 10 podcast in the whole world, Scott Clary. He's a part of this.
It's amazing.
And you're a part of this. Yeah. And I'm just so excited to have, you're such a high-value guy. You're a spine surgeon from Minnesota.
Here we go again.
It's like being in prison, Minnesota. It's like, I don't even understand.
What's interesting about what you said about doing the podcast? So I just, obviously I love talking to people and like getting it and just like getting really in depth. Now it's our conversations a little bit different. A lot of times I'll do doctors that have invented some crazy thing or at the forefront. And so we're getting down into the minutia. That's a different feel, but I like digging into that. But selfishly, it's not even selfish. That allowed me to meet the people that I wanted to meet. So
Exactly.
the people that I go after to come on my podcast, especially when you're early, right? Because people are not coming to you. They're not like some
Right.
doctor starting
No.
a podcast. It's not like my phone's ringing off the hook, right?
You have to go out
Of course, my buddies from around, everybody wants to come on the show, and I didn't
Correct.
let them because I'm like, we talk all the time. Like, what are we going to talk about? But we're going to just shoot the breeze. I want to get in. But you know what it allowed me to do? It allowed me to meet people from all over the world that are at the forefront of their specialties. And in these 2.5 hour podcasts, I learned everything that they've spent 30 years learning.
Right.
Is there a better way to become better yourself as a physician, to talk to all these experts across the world? So I tell people, you don't have to like do some course online. I'm like, I'll just talk to the leading person in the world, and they're going to tell me in 2.5 hours all their theories. And there you go. And now, I can go from there. Because again, I'm not necessarily doing that.
What a great tool it
It
is.
was amazing. But then it allowed me to, like for our integrative health clinics, it allowed me to bring in those technologies where the top people in the world were seeing tremendous benefits for people, and then mix it all together and get these great results. Why are people not thinking? They're not doing that. They stay in these silos and everything, right? In life. And again, that's why, like for all these people I'm trying to help, which is a lot of people in healthcare, I want to have people like you in front of them, right? People like some of these, these billionaires and Mr. Wonderful, all these people in front of them, so that they can learn. These guys have done, you've done this stuff your whole life. Why would they not just say, hey, Ross, you know what? I might not disagree. I might whatever.
Again.
I saw you on American Greed. I might not really like you because I want to be judgmental, whatever. But they might say, well, can you tell me how do I do this? Like, what should I do with this stock? Like, when you don't do that, when you don't ask people, again, you're not saying, oh, do this, or oh, my Jordan Belt, we're going to do fake cut. You're just like, oh, yeah, you should do this. Why are you not asking that? And I can tell you, so many people are so trapped in the dark, and that keeps it, because the difference between making good investments and protecting your assets and having tax architects and having social media presence and knowing how to speak is the difference between being trapped your entire life in the rat race, on the hamster wheel, and being able to do whatever you want. Wake up when you want, go to sleep when you want, hang out with who you want, spend all the time with your family who you want. And for my physician colleagues, yes, please help patients, and this the number one thing to do. But you could also have a good life if you pay attention to what's available out there. And that's why there's just so much synergies, and that's why I wanted to do this business show, because they need to learn business.
I get it.
They need to learn this.
People are afraid of what they don't know. And people stay in their own lane, especially successful people, right? So I was this cold calling stockbroker, right? And I would call people, they have a ton of money, and I always was interested in the stock market, but I just dabbled, but I don't know. They were excited that I called, but they weren't going out to seek a broker. Do you understand what I mean? People tend to stay in their lane. You make some money, you have a nice life, maybe you have a woman in your life if you're a man. If you're a woman, maybe you have a man in your life, and you set up a little home, and you have a kid
White
or
picket
two.
fence. White picket
right,
fence.
Buy a couple of cars, and you go on a couple of vacations, and it's a life. That's the American dream. We have so much relative to everywhere in the world, and
But yet they're not happy.
well,
That's a whole
there
other.
are people that have almost nothing, and they're really happy.
That's exactly
And
right.
I learned that in my life. There were times,
Oh, you had
some of the
nothing
best
for
times
years.
of my life was I had nothing, and I was I had more women, and I had more peace and everything else when I had nothing. When I was broke, all of a sudden I have all this money, and I'm friggin' miserable. And I'm doing drugs, and I can't, I didn't have meaning in my life.
There's there's so many lessons that you can take
Life's
out of
lessons, but,
what you went through. So as we wrap up, this has been, obviously we have to have a part 2. I'm coming on your show.
I can't
wait.
And
then we'll
can't wait.
we'll get
I want
into
you
it.
in the hot seat,
Then I can
bro.
tell you all the stuff about.
I want all of
I
it.
got I got some stories. I
want all of it.
The more I'm releasing my stories, people are like, "Who is this? What is going on with this dude?"
Well, you are
like,
really
what is
such an
going on
anomaly.
with this dude?
You
I don't
are
understand.
such an anomaly.
But I love this. I love this stuff. But anyway, what? So in general, like where would you leave the like what are people missing? To me, they're just missing most things. They're just missing it. It's just like you got to get in the rooms where people know how to do this stuff. Why are people trying to reinvent the wheel? Pick up a book, read about me. There's some books there.
Correct.
Go read Carnegie's book. Go read read, learn about these people. Go to these masterminds. Again, yes, they're not all up and up. You know,
Correct.
like there's some of them are just people just saying
sell,
they're just selling you stuff.
Right.
But there are a lot of places where you can be around
100%.
people, and you can literally in an 8-hour day, you spend your day there, you come out, you're a different person. But yet people they've never stepped foot in those things.
I think that's going to change. I think that again. Many things that come and start here in America, I think that we are still pioneers. I think we're really
we sure are pioneers.
I think we're in the
that's for
first inning. And I think the rest of the world is going to come in now. Now that the language barrier has been crushed by AI, and now that the world is open for business thanks to social media, I think that this is where the real opportunity is. It's not in America. It's around the world. Like Stephanie just said, you're ranked in Sweden now. All of a sudden, you're like ranked, 37th in Sweden. You know, I can't wait to go to Sweden.
I mean, Sweden has its own problems. That's
right, but you know what I'm saying? Like all of a sudden, my podcast is being listened to in Sweden for whatever the reason. But the point I make is that, Americans to some extent have been inundated with phone calls and with come-ons and upsells and all these different things. I learned that from the stock business. We would call people, and at first everybody was like, sure, let's do it. And now everybody's like hanging up. Like, bro, I already tried that. I got burnt. Don't ever call me again.
Well, right now, I mean, I get 25 spam calls a day.
Right.
People just are inundated, and it's making them clam up more.
Correct.
They're
But
going.
what
They're
happened
going.
was, in 1991 and 1992, by that time, America was not receptive, but I would call people in England, and they would be like, oh, sure, let's give it a try. I'll send you 20 grand. It was like, wow. But they hadn't had a negative experience yet, right? And we're trained to deliver a real world-class type presentation, right? But what's happening now is the things that you just talking about inspiring people and educating people in the fields of medicine and business. So you're onto something amazing. In America, people are, this is starting to become like, opportunities abound. People, during COVID, people tried a million different things, and they realized a lot of this is bullshit. Now everybody wants to vibe with the authentic vibe. That's the new thing, right? People are tired of being coached by people that never did anything in life.
It's exhausting.
Right, or they're being told that they can transform them emotionally by people that are like,
but this is what bothers me on social media
stay with
right
me now.
Like,
stay with me.
Crazy.
Stay with me here.
I got you.
But around the world, now that the language barrier is done, you're going to have people coming in boatloads, coming in and want to know what you have to say about medicine, what you have to say about the business of medicine, what I have to say about the business of business, about the business of greatness, because we take certain things for granted. If you open your eyes and you look at the big world, they don't know. They don't have these opportunities.
No.
They just don't have these. What do you think in Nigeria they have these kind of opportunities?
No, you just need Starlink and a phone now, and they can and now they have the opportunity.
Now, for the first time in human history,
more.
8 billion people have this opportunity. And if you don't see this, then you're blind. You don't want to see. But if you see this, then you have to say, how can I profit from it? How can I profit? And I take it one step further. How can I profit, and how can you profit? How can I deliver something that profits you? Because then ultimately the profit will come to me and my family and the raw media family. And so that's what we're building now.
It's exciting.
And it's exciting. And literally the biggest retailer in the world is just coming in like with billions. And you're going to see craziness, and you're going to see the rest of the world coming in where we take things for granted. If they have like one fucking Starbucks, they're like, there's a line, of 200 people out the door because, wow.
No, they love American stuff, outside. I mean, you got these, the whole crew here, they're wrapped in. They're like, can I, you know what, the thing that I've really learned especially recently, is how uncomfortable people are, especially in healthcare, talking about making money, and ultimately. The way that I frame it is that the reason, first, number one, you want to be able to make money from the service that you provide. So if you provide a high level service, so for my colleagues that are physicians and surgeons and stuff like that, you're dealing with people's lives. You deserve to be compensated for that. I don't care what people say. People can say all the stuff they want. You control. I don't care. But what I will say is what do you do with that? It's okay to make money. You know what happens when you make money? You put yourself in a position where you can help others. And that's the number one thing. That's like my entire goal. I want to, be successful financially so that I can help others. Like my whole thing is helping others. I'm not about all that's just me. That doesn't mean there's nothing wrong with that, but I just want to use it to help others. If you're destitute, if you have no money, if you have no time to give of yourself because you're busy chasing dollars because people are taking it from you, guess what? You're not helping anybody.
Well,
you're helping a few people, but you can't help en masse. You can't really help. You can't donate to organizations. You can't be there. You can't say, I'm going to take a week off because I'm going to go and speak to all these people that need my help, even if they're paying me zero. Right. But you can take that time when you have the financial means to be able to do that.
100%.
And that's critical because every time, this is why a lot of people in healthcare do not want to speak about money. They feel like, oh, people are going to say stuff about me. I don't want to say. Now, there's some doctors out there that are telling everyone to go F themselves because they don't get paid enough. Wow. That's not going to work. No. That's you're not going to get any sympathy. But just being able to talk about this, in a comfortable. So, listen, this has been amazing. We didn't have enough time. We need another 2 or 3 hours, and maybe we can get through like a couple more points. So, anything in closing? Anything else? You mentioned going to rossmandell.com. Is there anywhere else they should? And obviously, Raw Media.
Raw Media.
Yeah, just let them know where to find you.
Check out rawmediaofficial.com. That's the website for Raw Media.
Yeah.
We did a soft launch. I'm not even on it. You'll see Stephanie, a beautiful face. But it'll give you an idea of some of the things we've already well into doing. You're going to see massive upgrades very soon. Like we have about 10 announcements that we're working on, press releases, etc. But, I'm on social media.
Yep. On
YouTube, it's The Real Ross Mandell. Please subscribe. It's free. I have a school community. There's a link called Tiny URL on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube. It's completely free. And it's a school community. We post every day something to do with life, business, and the markets. Every day we post.
Thanks for keeping it free because I think
100% free.
I think that's great for people.
And if you want to buy something, you have the option.
Yeah, you can
buy.
The
community is free.
Yes.
And we have like intro to the stock market. We charge $15. And it was written by me in my voice. Because a lot of these friggin' stock market classes, I don't even understand what the fuck they're talking about. I'm doing this for 45 years. It's all horse shit. They use ChatGPT and they make shit up and they really just don't know. I talk in plain English, how to open an account, what kind of papers to sign, what kind of an account. I'm available for private consultation. You DM me or you go to info at rawmediaofficial.com. Info at rawmediaofficial.com. And you send an email. And one of my team members will get back to you. Raw Media is over 20 people strong right now. Very quiet, but we're going to make a huge amount of noise. We have literally made some deals that are going to be like wild, that big. Really successful deals offering us revenue streams from hundreds of different places.
Netflix, watch out.
Well,
I'm
a big. I binge watch Netflix every day, but they have a big competitor coming in. They know about it. It's been announced publicly. It's one of the biggest companies on earth, and it's a very exciting time for me, and I'm so grateful and I'm so humble because, 2 years ago, I was in home confinement. I was wearing an ankle monitor. 2 years ago. 3 years ago, I was inside a federal institution, and I've been locked down. I've been in transit in the detention center. They kept me there for 19 months. You're not supposed to be there more than a month. They kept me 19 months. They put serial killers in my cell. Just me and a serial killer. Guys with
I
9
guess
inch
you
knives.
at least you get to meet some interesting people.
I met some interesting fucking people. I actually helped everybody that I've ever encountered in prison, one way, shape, or form. I think because I'm an older guy and they look at me as safe, like they can confide in me, and I help them pray. A lot of praying going on in prison. They say if you want to find God, go to prison or the ICU in the hospital. Then you'll find God.
Amen.
He's right there, right?
Amen. Well, listen, this has been amazing. We're going to do this again. People will be wanting more.
I can't wait.
You get to ask me stuff next time.
I can't wait.
That'll be interesting.
I can't wait to get you on
It'll
the
be
hot seat.
interesting. So
Thank you for having me today.
thanks, everyone, for being on Business at the Speed of Light. It's Dr. Sinicropi with the rockin' Ross Mandell. This has been a whirlwind. Leave us your questions, and we'll see you next time.